Get this bald freak out of my sight. She's ruining my appetite. The billionaire's voice cut through the charity gala like a knife. 300 guests froze. The 8-year-old cancer survivor started crying, her small hands covering her face. Her grandfather, a Hells Angels president with 3 combat tours behind him, set down his champagne glass. He walked toward the billionaire slowly, deliberately. The crowd parted like water. He leaned close to the billionaire's ear. "Say that again," he whispered. "I dare you." The room fell silent. What happened next destroyed a $2.8 billion empire without a single punch being thrown. If you believe children deserve protection, subscribe and follow this story to the end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The Grand Meridian Hotel Ballroom held 300 of Houston's wealthiest citizens that night. Crystal chandeliers, $1,000 plates, designer gowns worth more than most families earned in a year. And in the middle of it all stood Jake Stone Morrison, 58 years old, wearing his Hells Angels cut over a clean white dress shirt. His daughter Maria gripped his arm. "Dad, people are staring." "Let them stare," Stone said quietly. "We paid $50,000 to be here, same as everyone else." His granddaughter Lily tugged at his hand. She was 8 years old and her hair was just starting to grow back in soft patches after 18 months of chemotherapy. She wore a pink dress her mother had saved 3 months to buy. "Grandpa, why is everyone looking at us?" Stone knelt down to her level. "Because they've never seen anyone as brave as you, sweetheart." Maria scanned the room nervously. "Maybe this was a mistake. We should have just sent a check." "No," Stone's voice was firm. "Lily wanted to meet the other kids. The kids who are still fighting. She wants to tell them she made it. That's worth more than any check." The charity gala was for St. Christopher's Children's Cancer Foundation. Lily had spent 11 months in their care. The nurses had become family. The doctors had saved her life. When Stone heard they needed funding for a new treatment wing, he'd emptied the Hells Angels Community Fund. $50,000. Every penny the club had raised through charity rides, car washes, and donations. "Mr. Morrison," a young woman in a hotel uniform approached them cautiously. Her name tag read Jessica. "There's been a concern raised about your attire." Stone looked down at his cut. The Hells Angels patches had been cleaned and pressed. His boots were polished. His jeans were new. "What kind of concern?" Jessica's face reddened. "Some of the other donors feel that the motorcycle club imagery might be inappropriate for this type of event." Maria stepped forward. "My father donated $50,000 to this charity, more than most people in this room." "I understand, ma'am, but what?" Stone asked calmly. "My granddaughter spent 11 months in that hospital. She almost died 3 times. The nurses held her hand when we couldn't be there. The doctors gave her a chance to grow up." He paused. "And someone in this room thinks my jacket is the problem." Jessica looked like she wanted to disappear. "I'm so sorry. I was just asked to boom." "Who asked you?" She hesitated. "It's okay," Stone said gently. "You're just doing your all. Who sent you?" Jessica glanced across the ballroom. "Mr. Harrington, Victor Harrington." Stone followed her gaze. A tall man in his early 60s stood near the bar holding court with a group of admirers. Silver hair perfectly styled. Custom suit that probably cost more than Stone's motorcycle. A smile that never reached his eyes. Victor Harrington, tech billionaire. Net worth $2.8 billion, owner of Harrington Technologies, which had bought and dismantled 37 small businesses in Houston alone. Stone had heard of him. Everyone had heard of him. "Thank you, Jessica," Stone said. "You can tell Mr. Harrington that we're staying." Jessica nodded quickly and retreated. Maria pulled Stone aside. "Dad, please don't start anything. This is for Lily." "I'm not starting anything." Stone squeezed her hand. "I promise." "Oh." Lily had found her people. In the corner of the ballroom, a special area had been set up for the children currently receiving treatment at St. Christopher's. About a dozen kids ranging from 5 to 15, some in wheelchairs, some with IV poles, all of them wearing the same look of fragile hope that Stone recognized from Lily's darkest days. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor with a 6-year-old boy named Marcus. He had leukemia and no hair at all. "Does it hurt?" Marcus asked, pointing at Lily's head. "When it grows back." "A little," Lily admitted. "It's kind of itchy. But you know what's cool? It's coming back curly. I never had curly hair before. Marcus touched his own bare scalp. You think mine will be curly too? Maybe, or maybe it'll be purple. You never know. Marcus giggled. Hair can't be purple. Says who? Stone watched from a distance, his heart swelling. This was why they'd come. Not for the fancy food or the tax deduction. For this moment. For Lily to show these kids that there was light at the end of the tunnel. Maria appeared beside him with 2 glasses of sparkling water. She's amazing, Maria whispered. After everything she went through, she still wants to help others. She gets that from you. No, Dad, she gets that from you. Stone shook his head. I'm just an old biker who got lucky. She's the real warrior. The moment shattered when a loud voice cut through the ballroom. What the hell is this? Victor Harrington was walking toward the children's area, champagne sloshing in his glass, his face twisted with disgust. Why are the sick kids out here? Victor demanded. This is a cocktail hour, not a hospital ward. Put them somewhere else. The charity coordinator, a woman named Patricia, rushed over. Mr. Harrington, the children are the whole point of the gala. The donors want to see who they're helping. The donors want to drink and network without being reminded of mortality. Victor waved his hand dismissively. Put them in a back room. Let people visit if they want to. Sir, many of these children specifically asked to attend. I don't care what they asked for. I donated $500,000 tonight. That's 10 times what anyone else gave. Victor pointed at the children's area. Move them, now. Patricia's face crumbled. Mr. Harrington, please. Did I stutter? Stone was already moving. Maria grabbed his arm. Dad, don't. But it was too late. Stone positioned himself between Victor Harrington and the children's area. He didn't say a word. He just stood there. Victor looked him up and down with undisguised contempt. Oh, wonderful. The biker. Did you lose your way to the monster truck rally? Stone remained silent. I asked you a question, caveman, and I'm choosing not to answer it. Victor's eyes narrowed. Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are, Mr. Harrington. Then you know I can't have you removed from this building with one phone call. You can try. The 2 men stared at each other. Victor was taller, but Stone had the kind of stillness that came from 30 years of facing down real danger. 3 combat tours, countless bar fights, men who actually wanted to kill him, not just intimidate him. Victor Harrington had probably never faced anything more threatening than a bad quarterly report. You're embarrassing yourself, Victor sneered, and your little motorcycle gang. What did you donate tonight? A few $100s from your meth sales. 50,000, Victor blinked. What? $50,000 from the Hells Angels of Houston, every penny raised through legal charity work. Stone paused. We've been doing community fundraisers for 6 years. Raise money for veterans, homeless shelters, and this hospital. What have you done besides write checks for tax deductions? For a moment, Victor seemed genuinely surprised. Then his face hardened again. Money is money. It doesn't matter where it comes from. You're right, Stone said. It doesn't. So why don't you take your $500,000, go enjoy your cocktails, and let these kids have their moment? Victor stepped closer. Are you telling me what to do? I'm asking you to show basic human decency. Decency, Victor laughed. These kids are going to die anyway. Half of them won't make it to their next birthday. What's the point of pretending otherwise? The words hit Stone like a physical blow. He thought of Lily at her worst. 47 pounds, unable to keep food down. Crying because she was too tired to cry. The doctors telling him to prepare for the end. And she had made it. She was right there 10 feet away, showing a scared little boy that survival was possible. Say that again, Stone whispered. Victor leaned in with a predatory smile. What? Say that again. I dare you. The ballroom went completely silent. Everyone was watching now. 300 people holding their breath. The soft clink of glasses had stopped. Even the string quartet had fallen silent. Victor Harrington looked around at his audience and seemed to realize he had a reputation to maintain. He couldn't back down in front of Houston's elite. I said, Victor announced loudly, these kids are going to die anyway. We're just throwing money at a lost cause. Several gasps echoed through the room. And while we're at it, Victor pointed directly at Lily. Why did you let this bald freak in here? She's ruining my appetite. Lily heard him. Her face crumpled. 8 years old, and she just learned that her hair made her a monster in some people's eyes. She'd already been through so much. The needles, the nausea, the fear, the endless grinding terror of wondering if she'd see another Christmas. And now a stranger was calling her a freak in front of hundreds of people. She started to cry. Stone's vision tunneled. Everything went quiet in his head, the same quiet that had descended in Afghanistan when his unit walked into an ambush, the same quiet that preceded the worst moments of his life. He could end Victor Harrington right now. One punch, maybe two. The man would go down and Stone would go to prison, and it would almost be worth it. Almost. But then he saw Maria rushing to comfort Lily. He saw the other sick children looking scared and confused. He saw the nurses and doctors who had dedicated their lives to saving kids like his granddaughter. They were all watching. And Stone realized something important. Victor Harrington wanted him to throw a punch. That's why he'd escalated. He was a bully, and bullies loved to provoke violence so they could play the victim. Stone took a deep breath. "I'm not going to hit you," he said quietly. Victor smirked. Smart caveman. "I'm not going to hit you because my granddaughter is watching. And I want her to learn that real strength isn't about hurting people who deserve it. It's about protecting people who need it." Victor rolled his eyes. "Spare me the hallmark philosophy." Stone stepped even closer, close enough that only Victor could hear him. "But here's what I am going to do, Mr. Harrington. I'm going to find out everything about you. Every business you've destroyed, every person you've hurt, every secret you are hiding. And then I'm going to make sure the whole world knows exactly what kind of man you are." Victor's smirk faltered slightly. "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise, Warren." Stone smiled, and there was nothing friendly about it. "You just made an enemy of the Hells Angels. Not because you insulted me. I don't care about that. You made an enemy of us because you made an 8-year-old cancer survivor cry in front of 300 people. And that, Mr. Harrington, is something we will never forget." Stone turned and walked away. He gathered Maria and Lily into his arms and headed for the exit. Behind him, Victor Harrington laughed loudly for his audience. "Good riddance, take your freak show somewhere else." But Stone noticed something as he left. Nobody was laughing with Victor. 300 of Houston's wealthiest citizens were staring at the billionaire with expressions of disgust. Several women were wiping their eyes. A few men were clenching their fists. Victor Harrington had just shown his true face in front of the entire Houston elite, and he was too arrogant to realize it. The motorcycle clubhouse was quiet when Stone arrived at 2 a.m. Most of the members had gone home, but Rex Chains Williams was still there nursing a beer at the bar. He'd lost his right leg to an IED in Iraq 15 years ago and walked with a prosthetic that he'd decorated with flames and skulls. "You're back early," Rex said, not looking up. "Thought the fancy party went until midnight." It did. Something in Stone's voice made Rex turn around. "What happened?" Stone sat down heavily on a bar stool. He'd been riding for 2 hours trying to clear his head, but the rage was still there, burning slow and steady like coal that would take days to cool. "A billionaire called my granddaughter a freak." Rex went very still. "What?" "Victor Harrington, tech guy, worth almost $3 billion. Stone stared at the bar top. Lily was playing with the other sick kids, showing them her hair growing back, making them laugh. And this piece of garbage walks over and calls her a bald freak in front of 300 people. Rex's hands tightened on his beer glass until his knuckles turned white. "Tell me you hit him." "No." "Tell me you at least broke something." "No." Stone looked up. Lily was watching. Maria was watching. I couldn't let them see me be that guy." Rex was quiet for a long moment. "You did the right thing," he finally said. "But that doesn't mean it's over." "It's not over." Stone pulled out his phone. "I need you to do something for me." "Name it." "Victor Harrington. I want to know everything. Every business deal, every lawsuit, every enemy he's made, every skeleton in every closet." Rex raised an eyebrow. "That's a lot of digging." "I know." Stone's jaw tightened. "And I know it might take months. I don't care. This man thinks he can hurt children and get away with it because he has money. I'm going to prove him wrong." The clubhouse door opened. Tank walked in first. Real name, Thomas Chen, 45 years old, built like a linebacker. He'd been a first responder on 9/11, pulled 17 people from the North Tower before it collapsed. These days, he ran a construction company and served as the club's sergeant-at-arms. Behind him came Hammer Diesel and a dozen other members. They'd all heard. Stone, Tank's voice was low and dangerous. Maria called, told us what happened. It's being handled. Is it? Hammer stepped forward. He was 62 years old, the club's oldest member, a Vietnam veteran with a gray beard down to his chest. Because from what I hear, some rich piece of garbage made Lily cry at a charity event for cancer kids. Stone stood up. What did Maria tell you? Everything. Tank crossed his arms, called her a freak, said the sick kids were going to die anyway, said they were ruining his appetite. The temperature in the clubhouse seemed to drop 20 degrees. I've got his address, Diesel offered. He was the club's tech guy, a former military intelligence analyst. Highland Park, big fancy house, no security fence. No, Stone said firmly. Boss, I said no. Stone looked around at his brothers. 20 men who would follow him into hell without hesitation. 20 men who loved Lily like she was their own blood. I'm not going to prove Victor Harrington right. He called us animals. He expected us to act like animals. If we show up at his house and beat him half to death, which he deserves, we become exactly what he said we are. So what? Hammer demanded. We just let him get away with it. No, we destroy him. Stone's eyes were cold. Not with fists, with truth. Men like Harrington don't just hurt one person. They hurt hundreds, thousands. They leave a trail of bodies everywhere they go. We're going to find that trail, and we're going to expose every single body. Rex nodded slowly. You want to take down a billionaire. I want to take down a monster. The billions are just details. Tank was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. I know people, other veterans, former FBI, former SEC, guys who've been watching Harrington for years but could never get enough evidence to move on him. Why not? Because he has lawyers, expensive ones. Every time someone gets close, he buries them in litigation until they give up. Tank cracked his knuckles. But lawyers can't stop a story from going viral. And they can't make people forget what they've seen. Stone felt something shift in the room. The rage was still there, but now it had direction, purpose. Here's what I want, Stone said. Oh, I want a complete file on Victor Harrington, every business he's destroyed, every person he's ruined, every law he's broken. I want victims willing to talk on camera. I want documents. I want proof. And then, Rex asked, and then we let the world see who he really is. Not with violence, not with threats, just with truth. Stone paused. The same truth he didn't expect from a bunch of animals in leather vests. The members exchanged glances. This wasn't their usual approach. When someone hurt one of their own, the response was typically swift and physical. But Stone was right. They all knew it. Victor Harrington had called them animals in front of 300 witnesses. If they proved him right, he won. If they proved him wrong, spectacularly publicly, permanently wrong, he lost everything. And that was so much better than a beating. All right, Tank said finally, let's do this. But I want one thing clear. What? When this is over, when Harrington has lost everything, I want to be there when he begs. Tank's eyes were hard. I want to see his face when he realizes that the animals he spit on are the ones who destroyed him. Stone nodded. You'll be there, brother. We all will. The next morning, Stone found Maria and Lily at his house. They lived in a small apartment across town, but Maria had brought Lily here after the gala. She knew Lily would feel safer at Grandpa's place. Stone walked in to find Lily sitting at the kitchen table, picking at a bowl of cereal. Maria stood at the counter, her eyes red from crying. Hey, sweetheart. Stone sat down across from his granddaughter. How are you feeling? Lily shrugged. She didn't look up. Lily. Why did that man say those things? Her voice was small. Did I do something wrong? Stone felt his heart crack right down the middle. No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. Some people are just broken inside. They hurt others because they can't stand how broken they feel. But I'm not a freak. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. Am I? Stone reached across the table and took her hands. Look at me, Lily. She raised her eyes, brown like her mother's, like her grandmother's who had died before Lily was born. You are the bravest person I have ever known, Stone said. I served 3 tours in Afghanistan. I've seen soldiers face enemy fire without flinching, but none of them were as brave as you. You fought cancer, Lily. You fought it for 11 months, and you won. But my hair, your hair is growing back, and even if it never did, you would still be the most beautiful girl in any room, because beauty isn't about what's on your head. It's about what's in your heart. And your heart, baby girl, your heart is pure gold. Lily sniffled. The man said I was ruining his appetite. The man was wrong. The man was cruel and wrong. And do you want to know a secret? She nodded. That man, Victor Harrington, he's afraid of you. Lily looked confused. Afraid of me? Why? Because you survived something that would have broken most people. You went through hell and you came out the other side smiling. You went to that party not to feel sorry for yourself, but to help other kids who are still fighting. You are everything he's not. Brave, kind, strong. Stone squeezed her hands. And people like him hate people like you because you remind them of how empty they really are inside. Lily was quiet for a moment. Are you going to hurt him, Grandpa? Stone hesitated. He wanted to lie. He wanted to tell her that everything was fine, that they would forget about Victor Harrington and move on with their lives. But he'd never lied to Lily before, and he wasn't going to start now. I'm going to make sure he can never hurt anyone else the way he hurt you, Stone said carefully. But I'm not going to hit him or do anything violent. I promise. Why not? Because violence is easy. It's what cowards do when they can't think of anything smarter. And I want to show you that there are better ways to fight. Lily considered this. Like when Marcus at school was being mean to me and Mom said to tell the teacher instead of pushing him. Stone smiled. Exactly like that, but bigger. Maria had been listening from the kitchen. Now she walked over and put her hand on Stone's shoulder. Dad, what are you planning? I'm planning to expose Victor Harrington for who he really is. Every person he's hurt, every law he's broken, every lie he's told. Stone looked up at his daughter. The club is with me. We're going to do this the right way. And if the right way doesn't work, Stone's jaw tightened. It'll work. Maria didn't look convinced, but she nodded. Just be careful. Harrington has lawyers, connections. He could make your life very difficult. He already has. Stone stood up. But he made a mistake last night. He showed his true face in front of 300 witnesses. He thought his money made him untouchable. I'm going to prove him wrong. Lily tugged at his sleeve. Grandpa. Yes, sweetheart. When you beat the mean man, can I be there to see it? Stone knelt down and hugged her tight. You'll have a front row seat. I promise. Victor Harrington's morning was not going well. He'd woken up at 6 a.m. with a pounding headache, the result of too much champagne at the gala. His wife, Patricia, had already left for her tennis lesson, leaving a passive-aggressive note on the refrigerator about his performance at the charity event. He didn't understand why everyone was so upset, so he'd said a few harsh things about sick children. So what, they were going to die anyway? He was just being honest. Everyone was always so obsessed with feelings and sensitivity. It was exhausting. His phone had been blowing up since midnight. Board members, PR consultants, lawyers, all of them saying the same thing. Someone recorded his comments at the gala and posted them online. Victor pulled up the video on his laptop. There he was, crystal clear, pointing at that bald little girl and calling her a freak. The camera had captured everything. The crowd's reaction, the little girl crying, the biker grandfather's cold, quiet response. The video had 2 million views already. Victor slammed his laptop shut. This is nothing, he muttered. People forget. They always forget. His phone rang. The caller ID showed his head of PR. What? Mr. Harrington, we have a problem. I've seen the video. Handle it. It's not just the video, sir. The PR woman's voice was strained. Janet is running a segment on you right now. They're calling you the billionaire who bullied a cancer patient. And, well, what? Your company's stock is down 6% in pre-market trading. Investors are nervous. Victor felt a chill run down his spine. 6% because of a stupid video. Sir, you insulted sick children at a charity event for sick children. The optics are not good. Optics, Victor spat the word. I've built a $2.8 billion empire from nothing. I've created thousands of jobs. I've donated millions to charity, and none of that matters because I made a joke. It wasn't perceived as a joke, sir. I don't care how it was perceived, Victor was shouting now. Get ahead of this. Put out a statement. Say I was taken out of context. Mr. Harrington, the video is very clear. I don't think we can claim you were taken out of context. Then claim I was drunk. Claim I have a medical condition. Claim the video is deepfake. Victor ran his hands through his hair. I don't care what you say. Just make this go away. There was a long pause. I'll do my best, sir. The line went dead. Victor stared at his phone. This was the biker's fault. That animal in the leather jacket had set him up somehow, made him look bad in front of everyone, recorded him without his consent. He was going to destroy that man. Victor dialed his head of security. I need everything you can find on a man named Jake Morrison. Goes by Stone. President of the Hells Angels chapter here in Houston. I want to know where he lives, where he works, who his family is, everything. Yes, sir. And I want his motorcycle club shut down. They must have broken some law somewhere. Health codes, tax violations, something. Find it. Sir, if I may, going after a motorcycle club could create more negative publicity. Did I ask for your opinion? No, sir. Then do your job. Victor hung up and walked to his window. His mansion looked out over Highland Park, one of Houston's wealthiest neighborhoods. He could see his pool, his tennis court, his 4-car garage, containing vehicles worth more than most houses. He had built all of this himself, from nothing. His father had been a drunk who died in a factory accident. His mother had worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. Victor had clawed his way out of poverty through sheer force of will, crushing anyone who got in his way. And now a bunch of leather-wearing degenerates thought they could take him down. Not a chance. Victor Harrington hadn't become a billionaire by backing down from fights. He'd become a billionaire by destroying his enemies so completely that no one else dared to challenge him. The biker wanted war. He'd get war. 3 days later, Stone's world started falling apart. It began with a phone call from Maria. Dad, I've been fired. Stone nearly dropped his coffee. What? The hospital let me go this morning. They said it was budget cuts. But we both know that's not true. Maria's voice was shaking. Victor Harrington owns a significant stake in the hospital's parent company. His lawyers called yesterday. Stone closed his eyes. I'm sorry, sweetheart. This is my fault. It's not your fault, Dad. You didn't make him say those things. You didn't record him. He's the one who... But I challenged him. I made him look bad, and now he's going after you. He's going after all of us, Maria paused. Dad, there's something else. Lily's insurance claim was denied this morning. The company says her treatment was experimental, and they won't cover it. Stone felt the blood drain from his face. Lily's insurance, the follow-up treatments, the monitoring scans, the specialists. Maria's voice cracked. Without insurance, we're looking at $40,000 out of pocket. I don't have that kind of money. Not anymore. Victor Harrington, the man, wasn't just fighting back. He was going nuclear. Don't worry about the money, Stone said. I'll figure something out. How the club's charity fund is empty. We gave it all to St. Christopher's. I'll figure it out, Stone repeated. Just take care of Lily. Don't let her know what's happening. He hung up and sat in silence for a long moment. Then he called Rex. We need a church meeting. Tonight. Everyone. The clubhouse was packed. 23 full members of the Hells Angels Houston chapter sat in folding chairs, their faces grim. They'd all heard the news. Stone stood at the front of the room. Victor Harrington fired the first shots today. Maria lost her job. Lily's insurance claim was denied. And that's just the beginning. He paused. I got a call an hour ago from our lawyer. Someone is filing complaints against every business owned by a Hells Angels member. Health code violations, zoning issues, tax audits. It's coordinated, it's professional, and it's coming from Harrington. Murmurs rippled through the room. This is war, Tank said. Should do we do? We fight, but we fight smart. Stone pulled out a folder. Diesel has been digging into Harrington's background for the past 3 days. Tell them what you found. Diesel stood up. He was 42, thin and wiry with glasses that made him look more like an accountant than a biker, which was fitting since he'd been an intelligence analyst for the Army before he retired. Victor Harrington has destroyed 47 small businesses in Houston over the past 15 years. Diesel began. His pattern is always the same. He identifies a target, usually a company he wants to acquire or a competitor he wants eliminated. Then he uses a combination of legal pressure, regulatory complaints, and financial manipulation to drive them under. He clicked a remote, and a projector displayed a photo on the clubhouse wall. This is Margaret Chen. She owned a restaurant supply company that Harrington wanted. When she refused to sell, he had a shell company file false complaints against her. Health violations that never existed. Fire code issues that were fabricated. By the time she cleared her name, she'd spent $200,000 on legal fees and lost most of her customers. She sold to Harrington for pennies on the dollar. Another click. Another photo. This is David Okonkwo. He owned a tech startup that developed software Harrington wanted. Same pattern, false accusations, regulatory nightmares, legal bills. David lost everything. He filed for bankruptcy last year. His wife left him. His kids don't speak to him. Click, 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 more faces, more stories. Business owners, entrepreneurs, families who had built something from nothing only to watch Victor Harrington tear it all away. There are 47 documented cases, Diesel said, but those are just the ones we can prove. The real number is probably much higher. The room was silent. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? Hammer asked. Because he's smart. He uses shell companies, middlemen, deniable proxies. He never leaves fingerprints, and anyone who tries to fight back gets buried in litigation. Harrington has a legal team that costs more per hour than most of us make in a week. He can drag cases out for years. Most people can't afford to fight that long. Tank leaned forward. So what makes us different? Stone smiled. We're not most people. We don't have shareholders who get nervous about bad press. We don't have investors who can be pressured. We don't have licenses that can be revoked. He paused. And we have something Victor Harrington has never faced before. Brotherhood. 23 men who will stand together no matter what, who can't be bought, bullied, or broken. The members exchanged glances. Here's what I want, Stone continued. I want to find every person Victor Harrington has hurt. Every business owner, every employee, every family member. I want their stories. I want their documents. I want proof. And then, Rex asked, and then we go public. Not with threats, not with violence, just with truth. Stone looked around the room. Victor Harrington has spent 30 years hiding what he really is. We're going to pull back the curtain and let the whole world see. Hammer spoke up. What about the attacks on us, the complaints against our businesses? We fight them one by one, pool our resources, share lawyers, support each other. Stone's jaw tightened. It's going to be hard. Some of us might lose businesses. Some of us might lose money. But we've been through worse. We've survived wars. We've survived injuries. We've survived things that would have broken ordinary men. He paused. Victor Harrington thinks he can scare us because he has $2.8 billion. He doesn't understand that money can't buy what we have. Loyalty, brotherhood, a cause worth fighting for. Tank stood up. I'm in, whatever it takes. Rex stood up next to him. Me too. One by one, every member in the room rose to their feet. Stone felt a warmth spread through his chest. This was why he devoted his life to the club. Not for the motorcycles, not for the image. For this. For brothers who would stand with you when the world was falling apart. All right, Stone said. Let's get to work. Over the next 2 weeks, Stone and his brothers built their case. It wasn't easy. Victor Harrington's victims were scattered across Houston, and many of them were terrified to speak out. They'd learned the hard way what happened to people who challenged him. But the Hells Angels had something Harrington's legal team didn't trust. When Stone showed up at Margaret Chen's door, she almost didn't let him in. But when he explained who he was, what had happened to Lillian, what they were trying to do, she broke down crying. I've been waiting years for someone to fight him, she said. I just never thought it would be bikers. She gave them everything. Documents, emails, financial records, proof that the complaints against her had been filed by a company owned by Harrington's brother-in-law. David Okonkwo was harder to find. He'd moved to a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, working part-time at a warehouse. The bankruptcy had destroyed him. Why should I help you? He asked Stone. What's the point? Harrington always wins. Not this time, Stone said. We're not going to court. We're going to the internet. He explained the plan. Gather all the evidence, create a website, share the victims' stories. Let the court of public opinion do what the legal system couldn't. David was skeptical. His lawyers will just get it taken down. Then we put it back up and keep putting it up, over and over until everyone has seen it. That could take years. We have years. Stone leaned forward. My granddaughter is 8 years old. She fought cancer for almost a year. She has scars on her arms from the IVs. She has nightmares about the hospital. And she still found the courage to go to that gala and try to help other kids. He paused. If she can do that, I can spend a few years taking down the man who called her a freak. David stared at him for a long moment. Then he went to his closet and pulled out a box. I kept everything, he said. I don't know why. Maybe I was hoping. I don't know. He handed the box to Stone. It's all there, every email, every document, everything they did to me. Stone took the box with both hands. Thank you, brother. I'm not your brother. You are now. Meanwhile, Victor Harrington was getting frustrated. His attacks on the Hells Angels should have worked by now. The complaints, the inspections, the legal pressure. It was the same playbook he'd used dozens of times before, but the bikers weren't folding. Every time one of their businesses faced a challenge, the others stepped in to help. Money, labor, legal support. They were operating like a single organism, sharing resources and covering each other's weaknesses. Worse, the bad publicity from the gala wasn't going away. The video had spawned countless memes and hot takes. Late-night hosts were making jokes about him. His social media was flooded with angry comments. His stock was down 18%. Board members were calling emergency meetings. Investors were threatening to pull out. And his wife had barely spoken to him in 2 weeks. This is not how it's supposed to go, Victor muttered to himself, staring at his laptop. He'd commissioned a private investigator to dig up dirt on the Hells Angels. Criminal records, drug connections, anything that could make them look bad. The report had come back surprisingly thin. Yes, some members had criminal histories, mostly bar fights and minor drug charges from decades ago, but the club itself was surprisingly clean. No current drug operations. No organized crime connections. Just a bunch of veterans who rode motorcycles together and did charity work. The investigator had actually seemed impressed. These guys are legitimate, he'd written, better citizens than most of the businessmen I've investigated. Victor had fired him on the spot. Now he was on his third investigator, and the results were the same. The Hells Angels of Houston were exactly what they claimed to be, veterans, helping other veterans, raising money for charity, taking care of their community, which made Victor's position even worse. He hadn't just insulted random bikers at that gala. He'd insulted decorated veterans who spent their weekends raising money for sick kids. The narrative was devastating. His PR team was working overtime to repair his image. Donations to charity, photo ops at community events. A carefully scripted apology video that had taken 17 takes to get right. None of it was working, because every time he made progress, someone would share that video again. Him pointing at Lily, calling her a freak, saying sick children were ruining his appetite. The internet never forgot, and it never forgave. 3 weeks after the gala, Lily's cancer came back. Maria called Stone at 2 a.m., her voice barely recognizable through the tears. The scans! Dad, the scans show new growths. They think it's metastasized. Stone sat in his dark living room, the phone pressed against his ear, and felt his world collapse. Not again. Please, God, not again. What did the doctor say? But there's a new treatment, experimental. It's had good results in cases like hers. Maria choked on a sob. But it costs $150,000 and without insurance. $150,000. Stone looked around his house. A modest three-bedroom in a working-class neighborhood. His motorcycle in the garage was worth maybe $15,000. His truck, another $10,000. Even if he sold everything he owned, he couldn't come close to $150,000. We'll find the money, he said. How, Dad? The treatment starts in 6 weeks. We need at least half of it up front. We'll find it, he repeated. I don't care what it takes. We'll find it. He hung up and sat in the darkness, his mind racing. The club had no money. They'd given everything to St. Christopher's. His savings were gone. Maria was unemployed. The insurance company had denied the claim. And somewhere in Houston, Victor Harrington was sleeping peacefully in his mansion, probably dreaming about new ways to destroy people. Stone felt something harden in his chest. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This wasn't about pride or principle or teaching a billionaire a lesson. This was about saving Lily's life. And if Victor Harrington was going to stand in the way of that, Stone would go through him like a freight train. Whatever it took, whatever it cost. He picked up his phone and called Tank. I need a meeting, not at the clubhouse. Somewhere private. What's happening? Lily's cancer is back. She needs treatment we can't afford, and I'm done playing nice. There was a pause on the other end. I'll make the calls. Ma'am. The meeting took place in a warehouse on the east side of town. It wasn't just Hell's Angels this time. Tank had reached out to his contacts, former FBI, former SEC investigators, journalists who had been tracking Harrington for years. Stone looked around the room at the assembled group. Bikers, suits, law enforcement, an unlikely alliance united by a common enemy. Here's where we stand, Stone began. Victor Harrington has been destroying businesses and lives for 30 years. We have evidence. We have witnesses. We have documents. He paused. What we don't have is a way to make him pay that doesn't take years. A woman in a gray blazer spoke up. Her name was Rachel Torres, and she'd been investigating Harrington for the Houston Chronicle before his lawyers buried her story. The problem isn't evidence. The problem is access. Harrington's lawyers can delay any legal action indefinitely, and traditional media won't touch him because they're afraid of getting sued. So we go around traditional media, Diesel said. Social media, YouTube, podcasts. We control our own narrative. That's the plan, Stone agreed. But we need something bigger. Something that can't be ignored or denied. Something that will bring Harrington down before he stopped. The words caught in his throat. Before Lily runs out of time. Tank put a hand on his shoulder. We know, brother. We know. An older man in the corner spoke up. Stone didn't recognize him, white-haired, tired-looking, wearing a rumpled suit that had seen better days. I might be able to help with that. Everyone turned to look at him. Who are you? Stone asked. My name is Walter Graham. I used to be CFO of Harrington Technologies, until Victor threw me out like garbage 3 years ago. Stone's eyes narrowed. Why should we trust you? Because Victor destroyed my life too, just like he's trying to destroy yours. Walter pulled out a thumb drive, and because I kept copies of everything. Every illegal deal, every bribed official, every offshore account. He held up the drive. This is the key to Victor Harrington's entire empire, and I'm ready to help you burn it to the ground. The room went completely silent. Stone walked forward and took the thumb drive. Tell me everything. Walter Graham's hands trembled as he plugged the thumb drive into Diesel's laptop. 37 years I gave that man, Walter said. I built his financial systems from the ground up. I knew where every dollar came from and where every dollar went. Stone leaned forward. Why did he fire you? Because I found something I wasn't supposed to find. Walter's face darkened. Victor has been running a parallel accounting system for 15 years. Shell companies in the Caymans, fake invoices, money laundering through real estate purchases. Rachel Torres, the journalist, nearly dropped her coffee. You have proof of this. I have everything. Walter clicked through folders on the screen. Bank statements, wire transfers, emails between Victor and his offshore accountants, even recordings of conversations where he explicitly discusses hiding money from the IRS. Tank whistled low. That's not just scandal. That's federal prison. Exactly, which is why Victor destroyed me when I confronted him about it. Walter's voice cracked. He didn't just fire me. He made sure I could never work in finance again. Spread rumors that I was embezzling. Got me blacklisted from every firm in Texas. My wife left me. My kids won't return my calls. Stone recognized the look in Walter's eyes, the same hollow desperation he'd seen in Margaret Chen and David Okonkwo. Victor Harrington didn't just beat his enemies, he erased them. Why didn't you go to the authorities? Rex asked. I tried. The FBI opened an investigation, but Victor's lawyers buried it in motions and counterclaims. They accused me of fabricating evidence, said I was a disgruntled employee seeking revenge. Walter laughed bitterly. By the time the dust settled, I was the one facing criminal charges. They dropped eventually, but my reputation was destroyed. So why come forward now? Walter looked directly at Stone. Because I saw that video. That little girl crying while Victor called her a freak. His jaw tightened. I have grandchildren too, and I realized I'd rather die fighting than spend another day letting that monster win. Stone stood up and extended his hand. Walter took it. Welcome to the fight, brother. The next 72 hours were a blur of activity. Diesel worked around the clock, cross-referencing Walter's files with public records. Every piece of evidence was verified, cataloged, and backed up to multiple secure locations. Rachel Torres reached out to her contacts at national news outlets. The story was too big for the Houston Chronicle alone. They needed network coverage. Tank coordinated with his former law enforcement contacts. Several retired FBI agents agreed to review the evidence and provide expert analysis. And Stone sat by Lily's hospital bed holding her hand while she slept. The cancer had spread faster than anyone expected. The doctors were talking about starting treatment immediately, but the insurance company was still stonewalling. Every appeal was denied, every request was delayed. Maria paced the hallway outside Lily's room, her phone pressed to her ear. What do you mean you need more documentation? I've sent everything 3 times. She listened, her face reddening. That's not no, you can't put me on hold again. The line went dead. Maria hurled her phone against the wall. It shattered into pieces. Stone stepped out of Lily's room. Hey! He pulled his daughter into a hug. It's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay, Dad. Maria was sobbing now. The insurance company is owned by a subsidiary of Harrington Holdings. Victor is blocking Lily's treatment on purpose. He's using my daughter to get to you. Stone felt something cold settle in his chest. How do you know that? The woman on the phone. She didn't know I could hear her, but before she hung up, someone in the background said, Harrington flagged this account personally. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Stone released Maria and stepped back. His hands were shaking. Not with fear, with rage. Victor Harrington wasn't just fighting dirty. He was trying to kill an 8-year-old girl to win a grudge match. Stay with Lily, Stone said quietly. Dad, what are you going to do? Whatever I have to. Stone rode his motorcycle through Houston's midnight streets, his mind racing faster than his engine. He'd promised Lily he wouldn't use violence. He'd promised Maria he would handle this the right way. He'd promised his brothers they would destroy Victor Harrington with truth, not fists. But how do you fight a man who would let a child die just to prove a point? His phone buzzed. A text from Rex. Church, now, emergency. Stone changed direction and headed for the clubhouse. When he arrived, he found chaos. Hammer was on the phone shouting in Spanish. Tank was hunched over a laptop, his face grim. Rex stood by the door with a shotgun scanning the parking lot. What happened? Stone demanded. They hit us, Tank said without looking up. 3 hours ago, while we were all focused on the Harrington files. Hit us how? Hammer's construction company just got shut down. City inspector found structural violations that didn't exist yesterday. Rex's bar lost its liquor license. Same inspector. Tank finally looked up. And someone broke into my storage unit. All my 9/11 documentation, all my commendations, gone. Stone's blood went cold. They took your records from the towers. Tank's voice was barely controlled. 17 people I pulled out of that building. 17 families who send me Christmas cards every year because I saved their loved ones. And someone just erased the proof that it ever happened. It wasn't someone. Rex's grip on the shotgun tightened. It was Harrington. He's trying to destroy our credibility before we can go public. The clubhouse phone rang. Everyone froze. Stone walked over and picked it up. Hello, Mr. Morrison. The voice was smooth, confident, dripping with condescension. I believe we have some unfinished business. Victor Harrington. Stone's hand tightened on the receiver. How did you get this number? I get whatever I want, Mr. Morrison. That's what money does. Victor chuckled. I understand your granddaughter is quite ill. Such a shame about her insurance. These bureaucratic mix-ups can take months to resolve. If you're threatening, I'm offering you an opportunity. Victor's voice turned businesslike. Drop whatever investigation you're conducting. Publicly apologize for harassing me at the gala, and convince your journalist friend to kill her story. Do those three things, and I'll personally ensure Lily receives the best care money can buy. Stone closed his eyes. There it was, the devil's bargain. Lily's life for his silence. And if I refuse, then your granddaughter will spend her final months watching her family be destroyed, one by one, business by business, until there's nothing left. Victor paused. I'm not a cruel man, Mr. Morrison. I don't enjoy this. But you started a war you can't win, and now you're going to learn what happens to people who challenge me. Stone looked around the clubhouse. At Tang, who had risked his life on September 11th only to have his heroism erased. At Rex, who had lost his legs serving his country and was now losing his livelihood. At Hammer, whose life's work had been destroyed with a single phone call. These men had stood with him. They had believed in him. They had trusted him to lead them against a monster. And now that monster was asking him to betray them all. Victor. Yes. Go to hell. Stone hung up. The room erupted. What did he say? Rex demanded. He offered to pay for Lily's treatment if I backed down. And Stone looked at his brothers with eyes that had seen combat loss and death. Eyes that had never once shown surrender. I told him no. Hammer stepped forward. Stone, if Lily needs that treatment. Lily needs to grow up in a world where men like Victor Harrington don't win. Stone's voice was steel. She needs to know that her grandfather didn't sell his soul to save her body. And she needs to see what real courage looks like even when the odds are impossible. Tank nodded slowly. So what do? We accelerate the timeline. Whatever we were planning to release next week, we release tomorrow. Whatever evidence we were holding back, we put it all out there. Stone grabbed his keys. Victor Harrington just made his biggest mistake. He thinks we're afraid of him. He's about to learn what fear really feels like. By sunrise, the Hells Angels had mobilized every resource at their disposal. Diesel uploaded the first wave of evidence to a website he'd built overnight. Walter's financial documents, bank statements showing money flowing to offshore accounts, emails proving tax fraud. Rachel Torres published a long-form article in the Houston Chronicle that went viral within hours. The billionaire who bullied a cancer patient inside Victor Harrington's trail of destruction. The article named 47 businesses that Harrington had destroyed using false complaints and legal manipulation. It included interviews with victims, it showed the pattern, and it connected everything to the viral video from the gala. By noon, Victor Harrington's name was trending on every social media platform. By 3 p.m., CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC were all running segments on the story. By 6 p.m., the SEC had announced an investigation into Harrington Technologies. Stone watched the coverage from Lily's hospital room, his phone blowing up with messages from brothers across the country. Hells Angels chapters in California, New York, Florida, all of them sharing the story, adding their own research, connecting the dots. Victor Harrington had spent 30 years building an empire of fear. In one day, that empire had started to crumble. But it wasn't enough. Maria rushed into the room. Dad, you need to see this. She handed him her tablet. A breaking news alert. Harrington Technologies Board of Directors calls emergency meeting. CEO's future in question. Stone read the article. Board members were demanding Victor's resignation. Institutional investors were threatening to pull out. The company's stock had dropped 31% in a single day. It's working, Maria whispered. Not yet. Stone handed back the tablet. Victor's still fighting. He's not going to give up just because he's losing money. As if on cue, Stone's phone rang. An unknown number, he answered. Mr. Morrison, this is Agent Patricia Cole with the FBI. We need to talk about Victor Harrington. Stone stepped out of Lily's room. I'm listening. The evidence your team released this morning corroborates an investigation we've been conducting for 3 years. We were never able to get enough to move forward because witnesses kept disappearing or recanting. But now, Agent Cole paused. Now we have everything we need. We're preparing to arrest Victor Harrington for tax evasion, money laundering, and wire fraud. Stone's heart skipped. When? Tomorrow morning. But there's a complication. What kind of complication? Victor knows we're coming. He has sources everywhere. If he runs before we can serve the warrant, we might never catch him. Stone understood immediately. You need us to keep him busy. I can't officially ask you to do that. But unofficially, there was a long silence. Mr. Morrison, if Victor Harrington happens to be distracted by something, when our agents arrive at his residence tomorrow at 8 a.m., it would be very convenient for our investigation. Stone smiled. I think I can arrange that. The plan came together in hours. 200 Hells Angels from chapters across Texas would converge on Victor Harrington's Highland Park mansion at 7 a.m. Not to threaten, not to trespass, just to be present, to stand outside on public property holding American flags while Victor's world collapsed around him. But Stone had something else in mind, something more personal. At 6 a.m., he rode his motorcycle alone to Victor Harrington's mansion. The security guard at the gate tried to stop him. Sir, this is private property. You can't. Tell Victor that Jake Morrison is here to discuss his offer. The guard hesitated, then spoke into his radio. A moment later, the gate opened. Stone rode up the circular driveway and parked in front of the mansion's grand entrance. Victor was waiting on the steps, flanked by 2 bodyguards. You came alone. Victor sounded surprised. I expected an army of leather-wearing degenerates. They're on their way. I wanted to talk first. Victor's eyes narrowed. Talk about what you've already destroyed me. The board is meeting in 2 hours to remove me as CEO. My lawyers say I'll be arrested by the end of the week. What more do you want? Stone dismounted and walked toward Victor, stopping just a few feet away. I want you to understand something. Understand what? This didn't have to happen. Stone's voice was quiet. At that gala, you could have walked away. You could have kept your mouth shut. But you saw my granddaughter, a little girl who had just beaten cancer, and you called her a freak. In front of 300 people. For no reason except to make yourself feel powerful. Victor's jaw tightened. It was a joke. It wasn't a joke to her. It wasn't a joke to her mother. It wasn't a joke to the other children at that event who are still fighting for their lives. Stone stepped closer. You made an 8-year-old cancer survivor cry because you couldn't handle seeing bikers in your fancy restaurant. And then, when we tried to hold you accountable, you tried to kill her. I didn't try to kill anyone. You blocked her insurance. You made sure she couldn't get treatment. You were going to let her die just to win a fight. Stone's voice cracked with barely contained fury. What kind of man does that? What kind of monster uses a dying child as a bargaining chip? For the first time, something flickered across Victor's face. Not quite shame, but close. I was trying to protect myself. No, you were trying to prove that your money makes you untouchable. That you can hurt anyone you want without consequences. Stone shook his head. Well, here's the consequence, Victor. You're going to lose everything. Your company, your money, your reputation, your freedom. And you're going to spend the rest of your life knowing that it all started because you couldn't keep your mouth shut about a little girl's hair. The sound of motorcycles echoed in the distance, faint at first, then growing louder. Victor's face went pale. They're coming, Stone said, 200 of them. Veterans, first responders, men who have sacrificed more for this country than you could ever understand. They're going to stand outside your gate and watch while the FBI puts you in handcuffs. The FBI. Oh, did I forget to mention that? Stone smiled, and there was nothing friendly about it. Agent Cole sends her regards. The warrant is being executed at 8 a.m. Turns out your accountant kept very detailed records. The motorcycles were getting closer now. Stone could see them cresting the hill at the end of the road, a river of chrome and leather flowing toward Victor's mansion. Victor grabbed Stone's arm. Wait, please. I'll pay for your granddaughter's treatment. All of it. I'll cover everything. Stone looked down at Victor's hand, then back up at his face. You had that chance. You tried to use it as blackmail. He pulled his arm free. Now you're going to face justice like everyone else. No deals, no buyouts, just consequences. The motorcycles began pulling up outside the gate. Row after row of riders, their engines thundering like an army of thunder gods. Victor's bodyguards moved to flank him, but their faces showed doubt. They could see what was happening. Their employer was finished. Please, Victor begged. His voice had lost all its arrogance. I have a wife, children. They need me. You should have thought about that before you attacked mine. Stone turned and walked back to his motorcycle. He mounted up and looked over his shoulder one last time. Goodbye, Victor. I'd say it's been a pleasure, but my mother taught me not to lie. He rode down the driveway and through the open gate, taking his place at the head of 200 brothers. The FBI arrived at exactly 8 a.m. Victor Harrington's arrest was broadcast live on every major news network. The footage showed him being led out of his mansion in handcuffs past rows of silent bikers holding American flags. He was crying, begging, offering money to anyone who would listen. No one listened. Stone watched from across the street, surrounded by his brothers. Tank stood on his right, Rex on his left, Hammer, Diesel, and 20 others forming a wall of leather and determination. We did it, Rex said quietly. We actually did it. Not yet, Stone replied. Lily still needs that treatment. As if the universe had been waiting for its cue, Stone's phone rang. Maria. Dad. Her voice was shaking. Dad, you're not going to believe this. What happened? The insurance company just called. They're approving everything, full coverage. They said there was an administrative error and they're expediting Lily's treatment immediately. Stone closed his eyes. For the first time in weeks, he felt like he could breathe. There's more, Maria continued. St. Christopher's received an anonymous donation this morning. $10 million, specifically earmarked for children who can't afford cancer treatment. Anonymous? The bank traced it to an offshore account that was frozen this morning by the FBI. Dad, it's Victor's money. The courts are using his seized assets to help the kids he tried to hurt. Stone laughed. He couldn't help it. After everything, the threats, the attacks, the fear of Victor Harrington's own money was going to save Lily's life. That's what they call poetic justice, sweetheart. Dad, I need you to come to the hospital. Lily wants to see you. She wants to thank you. Thank me for what? For being her hero. Stone ended the call and looked around at his brothers. 200 men who had dropped everything to stand with him, who had risked their businesses, their reputations, their freedom to fight for a little girl they barely knew. It's over, he said. Lily's going to get her treatment. The money's coming from Harrington's seized assets. The cheer that went up was deafening. Tank grabbed Stone in a bear hug. Rex was crying openly, not bothering to hide it. Hammer raised his fist to the sky and let out a war cry that echoed off the mansions of Highland Park. But Stone wasn't celebrating, because he knew it wasn't over, not really. Victor Harrington was going to prison, but his empire was still standing. His company still employed thousands of people. His lawyers were still filing motions. His allies were still in positions of power. And somewhere out there, Victor's son, Richard Jr., was watching his father being led away in handcuffs, learning exactly the wrong lesson about what had happened. Stone mounted his motorcycle and started the engine. Where are you going? Tank called out. To see my granddaughter. Want company? Stone shook his head. Not this time, brother. This one I need to do alone. He rode away from the mansion, away from the cameras and the chaos toward St. Christopher's Hospital, toward Lily, toward whatever came next, because Stone knew something that the celebrating bikers didn't. Victor Harrington was just one man. The system that had created him, that had protected him for 30 years, was still intact. And until that system changed, there would always be another Victor, another billionaire who thought his money made him untouchable, another monster who preyed on the weak because no one had ever stopped him. Stone had won this battle, but the war was just beginning. Lily was sitting up in bed when Stone arrived, her face pale, but her eyes bright. Grandpa! She reached out her arms and Stone crossed the room in 3 steps to embrace her. Hey, sweetheart, how are you feeling? Tired, but Mom says I'm going to get better now. She says the mean man's money is going to help me. Stone pulled back to look at his granddaughter, 8 years old, bald, fragile, and braver than any soldier he'd ever served with. That's right, baby. The mean man can't hurt anyone anymore. Lily's face grew serious. Grandpa, did you hurt him? No, sweetheart. I promised you I wouldn't remember. Then how did you beat him? Stone sat on the edge of her bed and took her small hand in his. I beat him by telling the truth, by showing everyone what kind of person he really was, and by having friends who stood with me when things got hard. Lily considered this. Like your motorcycle friends. Exactly like my motorcycle friends. They came from all over Texas to help. 200 of them. Wow, Lily's eyes went wide. That's a lot of friends. It is, and you know what? They all came because of you. Because of me. Because when that mean man made you cry, he made them angry. They have children and grandchildren too, and they couldn't stand by while someone hurt an innocent kid. Stone squeezed her hand. You brought us all together, Lily. You gave us a reason to fight. Lily smiled, and despite everything, the hospital bed, the IV in her arm, the cancer still lurking in her body, she looked genuinely happy. Grandpa. Yes, sweetheart. When I grow up, can I ride a motorcycle too? Stone laughed. It came from somewhere deep inside a place he'd thought had gone cold and empty. Absolutely. I'll teach you myself. Maria appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. The doctors want to start treatment tomorrow. They say with the new protocol, she has an excellent chance. How excellent? 90% dad, 90% chance of full remission. Stone closed his eyes and sent up a silent prayer of thanks. When he opened them, Lily was looking at him with a curious expression. Grandpa, are you crying? Maybe a little. Why? Because sometimes, sweetheart, people cry when they're happy. And right now, I'm the happiest I've ever been. Lily reached up and wiped a tear from his cheek. Don't cry, Grandpa. Everything's going to be okay now. You promised. I did promise, and I always keep my promises. Stone stayed at the hospital until Lily fell asleep. Then he walked outside into the warm Houston night and found Tank waiting by his motorcycle. Thought you might need a ride back to the clubhouse. What are you doing here? Where else would I be? Tank handed Stone a beer. We're brothers. Brothers don't let brothers drink alone after they've just taken down a billionaire. Stone took the beer and leaned against his motorcycle. It's not over, you know. I know. Tank took a long drink. But tonight it's over enough. Tonight we celebrate. Tomorrow we figure out what's next. Stone looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Victor Harrington was spending his first night in a jail cell. His empire was crumbling. His family was in ruins. And all because he couldn't resist mocking a sick child. You know what the funny thing is, Stone said. What? If Victor had just apologized at the gala, none of this would have happened. If he'd shown one moment of basic human decency, he'd still be sitting in his mansion counting his billions. Men like Victor don't apologize. Tank shook his head. They don't know how. They've spent so long treating everyone like dirt that they forget other people are human. And that's why they fall. Stone finished his beer. Because eventually they pick on the wrong person. Someone who won't back down. Someone with friends who won't back down either. Tank raised his bottle. To not backing down. Stone clinked his bottle against Tank's. To brotherhood. They drank in silence as the night deepened around them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Lily's treatment, the aftermath of Victor's arrest, the endless work of rebuilding what had been destroyed. But for now, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. A grandfather had protected his granddaughter. A monster had been brought to justice. And 200 men on motorcycles had proven that real power had nothing to do with money. Stone's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He read it and felt his blood run cold. This isn't over. My father may be in prison, but the Harrington name still means something. You've made an enemy for life. Richard Harrington, Jr. Stone showed the message to Tank. Tank read it twice, then looked up with hard eyes. Well, looks like we know what tomorrow's problem is. Stone pocketed the phone and mounted his motorcycle. Let him come. I've faced worse than spoiled, rich kids with daddy issues. You sure about that? Stone thought about Lily, about Maria, about everything he'd been through in the past month. I'm sure about one thing, he said. Anyone who threatens my family will face the same fate as his father. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what it costs. He started his engine. They can send whoever they want. The Hell's Angels will be ready. Richard Harrington Jr. didn't waste any time. 3 days after his father's arrest, Stone received a call from Rachel Torres. "We have a problem." Stone was at the hospital watching Lily sleep through her first round of treatment. Maria had gone home to shower and change. The room was quiet except for the beeping of monitors. "What kind of problem?" "Richard Jr. just held a press conference. He's claiming that the Hells Angels fabricated evidence against his father. Says Walter Graham is a disgruntled employee who doctored financial records. He's threatening to sue everyone involved for defamation." Stone rubbed his eyes. He'd slept maybe 4 hours in the past 3 days. Can he do that? Legally, he can file whatever lawsuits he wants. Whether he wins is another matter. Rachel paused. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is the media is starting to pick up his narrative. Some outlets are questioning whether the evidence was legitimate. They're painting your club as a vigilante group that framed an innocent man. Victor Harrington is not innocent. I know that. You know that. But Richard Jr. has money lawyers and a PR team working around the clock. He's turning this into a story about biker gangs persecuting a respected businessman. Stone stood up and walked to the window. Houston stretched out below him, millions of people going about their lives unaware of the war being fought in their midst. What do? We need to get ahead of this. The FBI has the original evidence, but they can't comment on an ongoing investigation. Walter's credibility is being attacked, so his testimony alone won't be enough. Rachel took a breath. We need more witnesses, people who can corroborate Victor's pattern of behavior from inside the company. Where do we find them? That's the thing. I've been reaching out to former Harrington employees all week. Most of them are too scared to talk, but there's one person who might be willing. Who? Patricia Harrington, Victor's wife. Stone nearly dropped his phone. His wife? She filed for divorce the day after Victor's arrest, moved out of the mansion. Apparently, she's been living with the abuse for 30 years and finally had enough. Rachel's voice softened. Stone, she knows everything. Where the bodies are buried, what Victor did to his enemies. All of it. Why would she talk to us? Because Victor didn't just hurt strangers. He hurt her too. And their children. Richard Jr. might be defending his father in public, but Patricia wants him to burn. Stone looked back at Lily, still sleeping peacefully. Set up a meeting. Patricia Harrington agreed to meet at a small cafe on the outskirts of Houston. She arrived alone wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky. When she removed them, Stone could see the remnants of a black eye beneath carefully applied makeup. Mrs. Harrington, please call me Patricia. She sat down across from him, her hands trembling slightly. I know what you must think of me. Married to that monster for 30 years, standing by while he destroyed people. I'm not here to judge you. Maybe you should be. Patricia's voice cracked. I knew what Victor was. I saw it from the beginning. But I was young and scared and pregnant, and he told me he would destroy me if I ever left. And I believed him, because I'd seen what he did to others. Stone leaned forward. Rachel Torres said you might be willing to help us. Help you? Patricia laughed bitterly. I want to do more than help. I want to bury him so deep he never sees daylight again. Why now? Why after 30 years? Patricia was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Because of your granddaughter. Stone stiffened. What? I watched that video. The one from the gala. I saw Victor point at that little girl and call her a freak. Patricia's eyes filled with tears, and I thought about my own daughter, Sarah. She's 19 now, away at boarding school. But when she was 8, she had leukemia. Stone's breath caught. Victor never visited her in the hospital, not once. He said sick children disgusted him. He said if she was going to die, he didn't want to waste time watching it happen. Patricia wiped her eyes. Sarah survived, but she's never forgiven him. Neither have I. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. This contains everything. 30 years of Victor's secrets, affairs, bribe sale, illegal deals, threats against witnesses, even recordings of him admitting to crimes he thought would never come to light. Stone took the drive, feeling its weight in his palm. Such a small thing to contain so much destruction. Why didn't you use this before? Because I was afraid. Victor always said he had people everywhere. Judges, police, politicians. He said if I ever betrayed him, he would make sure I lost everything and ended up in prison myself. Patricia's jaw tightened. But then I saw your granddaughter crying, and I saw you stand there and not hit him even though you could have, even though you wanted to. How did you know I wanted to? Because I've wanted to hit him every day for 30 years. Patricia reached across the table and gripped Stone's hand. You showed restraint I've never been able to show. You proved that monsters can be defeated without becoming monsters ourselves. And that gave me the courage to finally fight back. Stone squeezed her hand. We're going to take Anton down, Patricia. All the way down. I know. She smiled, and for a moment Stone could see the young woman she'd been before Victor Harrington had crushed her spirit. That's why I'm giving you one more thing. She reached into her purse again and pulled out an envelope. What's this? Richard Jr.'s Achilles heel. My son thinks he's clever, but he inherited his father's arrogance along with his money. He's been making moves behind the scenes that even Victor doesn't know about. Stone opened the envelope. Inside were documents, financial records, emails. Richard has been embezzling from the company for years, skimming money into offshore accounts. He thought no one would notice because everyone was focused on Victor. Patricia stood up. Use it wisely, Mr. Morrison. And when you're done destroying my husband and my son, do me one favor. What's that? Make sure my daughter knows I finally did something right. Patricia walked out of the cafe without looking back. Stone sat alone with the flash drive and the envelope, holding enough evidence to bring down the entire Harrington empire. His phone buzzed, a text from Maria. Lily's awake, she's asking for you. Stone pocketed the evidence and headed for his motorcycle. The war was far from over, but for the first time since this nightmare began, he felt like they were winning. Saw him. Lily was sitting up in bed when Stone arrived, a huge grin on her face. Grandpa, guess what? What, sweetheart? The doctor says my numbers is already getting better. The medicine is working. Stone felt his heart swell. He scooped Lily into a gentle hug, careful not to disturb her IV lines. That's amazing, baby. I knew you could do it. Mom says I'm the bravest girl in the whole hospital. Your mom is right. Maria stood in the corner watching them with tears streaming down her face. But they were happy tears now. Hopeful tears. Dad, can I talk to you outside for a minute? Stone kissed Lily's forehead and followed Maria into the hallway. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. For once, nothing's wrong. Maria threw her arms around him. Thank you. Thank you for everything, for fighting for her, for not giving up. I would never give up on Lily or on you. Maria pulled back and wiped her eyes. There's something else. The hospital administrator came by earlier. He said St. Christopher's wants to do a story about Lily for their annual fundraiser. Show how the donations are making a difference. A story. They want to film her recovery, interview us about what we've been through, turn it into a campaign to help other families who can't afford treatment. Stone considered this. Part of him wanted to keep Lily out of the spotlight. She'd already been through so much, but another part understood the power of her story. What does Lily want? Maria smiled. She wants to help other kids. She said if her story can make one other kid feel less scared, it's worth it. Stone shook his head in wonder. 8 years old, battling cancer for the second time and still thinking about others. She's incredible. She learned it from you, Dad. Before Stone could respond, his phone rang. Tank. Stone, we've got a situation. What kind of situation? Richard Jr. just showed up at the clubhouse alone, says he wants to talk. Stone's hand tightened on the phone. Don't let him leave. I'm on my way. Richard Harrington Jr. looked nothing like his father. Where Victor was tall and imposing, Richard was slight and nervous. Where Victor radiated arrogance, Richard seemed to vibrate with barely contained anxiety. He sat in the center of the clubhouse surrounded by 20 Hell's Angels, looking like a rabbit in a room full of wolves. Mr. Morrison, Richard stood up quickly when Stone entered. Thank you for agreeing to see me. I didn't agree to anything. You showed up uninvited. Stone crossed his arms. Talk fast. I know what you think of me, what you think of my family. Richard's voice was shaking. But I'm not my father. I've never been my father. You held a press conference calling us liars. You threatened to sue everyone involved in exposing Victor's crimes. I had to. You don't understand what it's like living under his shadow. The things he made me do, the person he forced me to become. Richard ran his hands through his hair. I've spent my entire life trying to earn his approval, doing whatever he asked, no matter how wrong it felt. And he never once said he was proud of me, not once. Stone felt no sympathy. So you're here for what, forgiveness? No, I'm here to make a deal. Tank stepped forward. What kind of deal? Richard pulled out a folder from inside his jacket. His hands were shaking so badly he nearly dropped it. I know my father is going to prison. The evidence against him is overwhelming. But the company, Harrington Technologies, employs 12,000 people. If it collapses, all of them lose their jobs, their health care, their pensions. Stone hadn't considered that. He'd been so focused on destroying Victor that he hadn't thought about the innocent employees caught in the crossfire. What are you proposing? I take over as CEO. I restructure the company. I make restitution to everyone my father hurt. And in exchange, Richard swallowed hard. In exchange, you don't release whatever else you have on my family. Stone thought about Patricia's envelope, the evidence of Richard's embezzlement. Why should I trust you? Because I don't want to be my father. Richard's voice broke. I've spent 30 years watching him destroy people, watching him hurt my mother, watching him drive my sister away. Tears were streaming down his face now. I know I'm not innocent. I've done terrible things, but I want to change. I want to make it right. Stone studied the young man in front of him, 28 years old, raised by a monster, twisted by expectations he could never meet. Was redemption possible for someone like Richard Harrington Jr.? Stone didn't know, but he knew what Lily would say. She would say everyone deserved a second chance. She would say forgiveness was stronger than vengeance. I'm not going to make any deals, Stone said finally, but I'm going to give you a chance to prove yourself. Richard looked up with desperate hope. How? The 47 businesses your father destroyed, the families he ruined, you're going to make restitution to every single one of them. Real money, real help. Not charity for tax purposes, but genuine effort to rebuild what was lost. I can do that. And you're going to establish a fund for children's cancer treatment. $10 million to start. More every year. Done. And you're going to publicly apologize. Not for your father's crimes, he can answer for those himself, but for your own role in defending him, for calling us liars, for threatening to sue the people who were just trying to expose the truth. Richard nodded slowly. I'll do it. All of it. Stone stepped closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. But understand this, Richard. I'm watching you. Every day. Every decision. If you slip up, if you hurt one person the way your father hurt people, if you show me even a glimpse of Victor Harrington's cruelty. He leaned in until his face was inches from Richard's. I will destroy you, and I won't give you a second chance. Richard didn't blink. I understand. Stone stepped back. Tank, show him out. As Richard was escorted to the door, he turned back one last time. Mr. Morrison, my mother, Patricia, is she okay? Stone considered lying, but something in Richard's eyes made him tell the truth. She's the one who gave us the evidence to take your father down. She wanted you to know she finally did something right. Richard closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were filled with something Stone hadn't expected to see: relief. Good, Richard whispered. That's good. He walked out into the night. Tank closed the door and turned to Stone. You believe him? I don't know yet. Stone pulled out Patricia's envelope. But I'm holding on to this as insurance. What is it? Proof that Richard has been embezzling from his own company for years. If he goes back on his word, we release it. He goes to prison just like his father. Tank grinned. You're getting good at this game. I've had good teachers. Stone looked around at his brothers. Speaking of which, we need to talk about what comes next. Hammer stepped forward. What do you mean, I mean, this isn't over. Victor's in jail. Richard might be turning over a new leaf. But the system that let the Harringtons thrive for 30 years is still intact. The judges they bribed, the politicians they bought, the regulators they corrupted. Rex nodded slowly. You want to go after all of them. I want to make sure no one can ever do what Victor did again. Not in Houston. Not anywhere. Stone's voice hardened. We started this to protect one little girl. But there are thousands of little girls out there. Thousands of families being crushed by men like Victor Harrington. Tank crossed his arms. That's a big mission, brother. It is, and I'm not asking anyone to join me who doesn't want to. We've already won the battle we set out to fight. Stone looked at each of his brothers in turn. But if you're willing, if you want to keep fighting, I think we can do something that actually matters. Something bigger than just one club in one city. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Hammer spoke up. I didn't join the Hells Angels to ride motorcycles. I joined it because I wanted to be part of something that made a difference. Something that helped people who couldn't help themselves. Rex nodded. Same here. Tank put his hand on Stone's shoulder. Brother, you walked into a room full of the most powerful people in Houston and stood up to a billionaire for insulting your granddaughter. You showed us what courage looks like. You think we're going to walk away now? One by one, every member in the room stepped forward. 23 men. Combat veterans. First responders. Fathers and grandfathers. Men who had already sacrificed everything for causes they believed in. And now they were ready to sacrifice again. Stone felt emotion welling up in his chest. He'd led men into battle before. He'd seen courage in the face of overwhelming odds. But this was different. This was family. All right, he said, his voice thick. Then let's get to work. The next 6 weeks were a whirlwind. Richard Harrington Jr. kept his word. He held a press conference apologizing for his previous statements, acknowledging that his father's crimes were real, and announcing a comprehensive restitution program for Victor's victims. The Fund for Children's Cancer Treatment was established with an initial donation of $15 million more than Richard had promised. Margaret Chun got her restaurant supply company back rebuilt with interest. David Okonkwo received a settlement that allowed him to start over. His wife came back. His kids started talking to him again. 47 families saw justice for the first time in years. And Lily was thriving. Her treatment was working better than anyone had hoped. The cancer was retreating. Her hair was growing back in thick patches, and every day she got a little bit stronger. Stone visited her every afternoon bringing gifts from his brothers. Tank made her a model motorcycle. Rex taught her to play poker. Hammer wrote her a song and performed it in the hospital courtyard while the other kids watched through the windows. She was becoming the unofficial mascot of the Hells Angels, and she loved every minute of it. One afternoon, Stone found Lily drawing pictures at her hospital bed. "What are you making, sweetheart?" Lily held up her artwork. It showed a group of motorcycles surrounding a tall building. Little figures stood on the bikes holding tiny American flags. "That's the day you beat the mean man," Lily explained. "I wanted to draw it so I never forget." Stone's throat tightened. "That's beautiful, baby." "Grandpa, can I ask you something?" "Anything." Lily put down her crayons and looked at him with serious eyes, far too serious for an 8-year-old. "Are there other mean people out there, like the man who called me a freak?" Stone hesitated. He wanted to protect her from the harsh realities of the world. But he'd never lied to her, and he wasn't going to start now. "Yes, sweetheart, there are other mean people." "Are you going to stop them too?" "I'm going to try," Lily nodded solemnly. "Good, because kids like me need someone to protect them." She went back to her drawing, adding more motorcycles to the scene. Stone watched her work, feeling the weight of her words settle into his bones. Kids like me need someone to protect them. That was why he'd started this fight. That was why he would keep fighting, not for revenge, not for glory, but for all the Lilies out there who deserved a chance to grow up without fear. His phone buzzed, a text from Agent Cole. "Victor Harrington's trial date has been set. The prosecutor wants to call you as a witness. Are you willing to testify?" Stone typed his response without hesitation. "Name the date. I'll be there." The night before Victor Harrington's trial, Stone stood alone at his wife's grave. Elizabeth Morrison had died 7 years ago, long before Lily was born. Cancer, the same disease that had nearly taken their granddaughter. Stone laid a single rose on the headstone. "I wish you could see her, Lizzie. She's so strong, stronger than I ever was." He knelt down, touching the cold stone. She asked me today if I was going to stop other mean people, and I told her I would try. The wind rustled through the cemetery, carrying the scent of autumn leaves. I know you'd tell me to be careful, to think about Maria, to think about the club, but I can't stop Lizzie. I can't look at that little girl and tell her the world is just going to stay broken. He stood up slowly, his knees aching from the cold. So I'm going to fix it, one piece at a time. Starting tomorrow when I look Victor Harrington in the eye and tell the whole world what he did. Stone touched the headstone one last time. I love you, Lizzie. I'll make you proud. He walked back to his motorcycle, mounted up, and rode toward the rising sun. Tomorrow, Victor Harrington would face justice, and Stone would be there to witness every moment. Oh, the federal courthouse was surrounded by media when Stone arrived. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. A crowd had gathered, some supporting Victor, most demanding his conviction. Stone pushed through the chaos, flanked by Tank and Rex. They'd worn their cuts, but underneath they were dressed in suits. Respect for the court, even if they had no respect for the man being tried. Inside, the courtroom was packed, every seat filled, standing room only. Stone saw Patricia Harrington sitting in the front row, her face drawn but determined. He saw Rachel Torres with her notebook ready to document everything. He saw Margaret Chen, David Okonkwo, and dozens of other victims who had traveled from across the country to watch Victor fall. And he saw Victor himself seated at the defense table in a prison jumpsuit, looking decades older than he had at the gala just 2 months ago. Their eyes met, Victor's face twisted with hatred. But underneath the hatred, Stone saw something else, fear. The prosecutor called Stone to the stand. He walked up slowly, placed his hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. Mr. Morrison, the prosecutor began, can you describe what happened at the charity gala on the night in question? Stone looked directly at Victor. A billionaire pointed at my 8-year-old granddaughter, a cancer survivor, and called her a bald freak. He said sick children were ruining his appetite, and when I confronted him, he made it his mission to destroy my family. What happened next? Stone smiled. I destroyed him instead. The courtroom erupted. Victor's defense attorney jumped to his feet. Objection, the witness is being inflammatory. Overruled. The judge's voice cut through the noise. Mr. Morrison is answering the question asked. Continue. Stone kept his eyes locked on Victor. The billionaire's face had gone pale, his hands gripping the defense table so hard his knuckles were white. Mr. Morrison, the prosecutor continued, can you describe the systematic retaliation you experienced after the gala incident? My daughter was fired from her nursing job within 72 hours. My granddaughter's insurance claim was denied, blocking her cancer treatment. Members of my motorcycle club had their businesses targeted with false complaints. Our veteran rehabilitation center was shut down. Stone paused. All of it traced back to companies owned or controlled by Victor Harrington. And how did you respond to this retaliation? Stone leaned forward. We investigated. We found 47 other families and businesses that Victor had destroyed using the same tactics. We gathered evidence. We contacted journalists, and we let the truth speak for itself. No violence. Not a single punch, not a single threat, just truth. The prosecutor nodded and turned to the jury. No further questions. Victor's defense attorney approached the stand with a predatory smile. He was expensive, $3,000 an hour, and he'd made a career out of destroying witnesses. Mr. Morrison, isn't it true that you're the president of a criminal motorcycle gang? I'm the president of a motorcycle club. We're not a gang. But several of your members have criminal records, correct? Some have records from decades ago. Bar fights, minor charges, all paid their debt to society. Stone's voice remained calm. We also have 3 Purple Heart recipients, 2 Bronze Star winners, and a man who pulled 17 people from the Twin Towers on September 11th. The attorney's smile flickered. Isn't it possible that you fabricated evidence against Mr. Harrington to pursue a personal vendetta? No. How can you be certain? Because the FBI independently verified every piece of evidence we provided. Because Victor's own wife corroborated our findings. Because 47 separate victims came forward with matching stories. Stone looked at the jury. And because Victor Harrington recorded himself admitting to crimes, we didn't need to fabricate anything. He documented his own destruction. The attorney opened his mouth to respond, but Victor suddenly stood up. This is ridiculous. The judge banged her gavel. Mr. Harrington, sit down immediately. I will not sit down. Victor's composure had shattered completely. This man is a criminal, a thug. He orchestrated a campaign to destroy me because I made a joke at a party. Mr. Harrington, I built an empire from nothing. I created thousands of jobs. I donated millions to charity. Victor pointed at Stone with a shaking finger. In this animal thinks he can take me down because I hurt his feelings. The courtroom had gone completely silent. Stone stood up slowly from the witness stand. You didn't hurt my feelings, Victor. You made my granddaughter cry. You tried to block her cancer treatment. You attempted to kill an 8-year-old girl to win a grudge match. His voice was quiet but carried to every corner of the room. And now you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, wondering how a bunch of animals in leather vests brought down your empire. Victor lunged across the defense table. 2 bailiffs grabbed him before he could reach Stone. He was screaming now, incoherent with rage, as they dragged him toward the side door. I'll destroy you, you hear me? I'll destroy everything you love. This isn't over. This isn't over. The door slammed shut behind him. The judge removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes. Court is in recess until tomorrow morning. Jury, you are reminded not to discuss this case with anyone. She banged her gavel once more and retreated to her chambers. Stone stepped down from the witness stand. Tank and Rex were waiting for him at the gallery rail. Well, Tank said quietly, that went well. Stone almost laughed. He lost it, completely lost it. The jury saw everything. Rex shook his head. His own lawyer couldn't control him. That outburst probably added 5 years to his sentence. Patricia Harrington approached them, her face streaked with tears. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for making him show his true face. Stone took her hand. You helped us get here. Don't forget that. I won't. Patricia squeezed his hand. My daughter Sarah is flying in tomorrow. She wants to be here for the verdict. She wants to watch him fall. She's welcome to sit with us. Patricia nodded and walked away, her shoulders straighter than Stone had ever seen them. Rachel Torres appeared at Stone's elbow. That was incredible. The way you stayed calm while he completely melted down. The jury was watching your face the whole time. I've faced scarier things than rich men throwing tantrums. I don't doubt it. Rachel pulled out her phone. The story is already everywhere. Billionaire attacks witness in own trial. It's trending nationally. Stone felt no satisfaction, only exhaustion. I need to see Lily. The hospital was quiet when Stone arrived. Visiting hours had ended, but the staff knew him by now. They waved him through without question. Lily was awake watching a movie on a tablet Maria had brought her. When she saw Stone, her face lit up. Grandpa, Mom said you were at the court today. Did you win? Stone sat on the edge of her bed. We're getting close, sweetheart. What happened? The mean man got very angry. He yelled and screamed and had to be taken away. Lily's eyes went wide. Like a tantrum, like when Tommy Johnson threw his lunch tray in the cafeteria. Stone chuckled. Exactly like that. Except Tommy Johnson is 7 years old and the mean man is 63. That's silly. Grown-ups aren't supposed to have tantrums. No, they're not. Stone smoothed her hair, which had grown back enough to cover most of her scalp. How are you feeling? Better. The doctor said my numbers are really good. She said if they stay this good, I might get to go home soon. Stone's heart swelled. That's wonderful news, baby. Grandpa, Lily's voice grew serious. When I go home, can I meet your motorcycle friends? The ones who helped you beat the mean man? Of course, they've been asking about you constantly. Tank wants to give you a ride on his bike. Really? Lily's eyes sparkled. Mom would never let me. I'll talk to her, maybe just around the parking lot. Lily giggled and threw her arms around the Stone's neck. He held her gently, breathing in the scent of hospital soap and childhood innocence. This was why he'd fought. This moment right here. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you'll ever know. Maria appeared in the doorway, her expression troubled. Dad, can I talk to you? Stone kissed Lily's forehead and stepped into the hallway. What's wrong? I just got a call from Richard Jr. Maria's voice was tight. He wants to meet with you tomorrow morning. Says it's urgent. Did he say what it's about? No, but he sounded scared, Dad. Really scared. Stone frowned. Richard had been keeping his promises for weeks now. The restitution payments were flowing. The children's fund was established. His public apology had seemed genuine. What could have spooked him? Set up the meeting. I'll hear what he has to say. Richard Harrington Jr. was waiting at the same cafe where Stone had met Patricia. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his chin, hands trembling as he clutched a cup of coffee he hadn't touched. "Thank you for coming," Richard said as Stone sat down. "You said it was urgent." "It is." Richard glanced around nervously as if expecting someone to be watching. "My father has people inside the prison. Loyal people. They've been passing messages for him." Stone's jaw tightened. "What kind of messages?" "Orders." Richard's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "He's not done fighting. He's been coordinating with his remaining allies on the outside. Judges he bought years ago, politicians who owe him favors. He's planning something." "Planning what?" "I don't know exactly, but I intercepted a message yesterday. It mentioned your granddaughter by name." Stone felt the blood drain from his face. "Show me." Richard pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. It was a printout of an email forwarded through multiple accounts to hide its origin. Stone read it once, then again. "The Morrison girl is the key. If she disappears, the grandfather will break. Everything unravels. Handle it." The words blurred as rage clouded Stone's vision. "Who sent this? I don't know. The accounts are untraceable. But it came from inside the prison network." Richard's hands were shaking badly now. "Mr. Morrison, I know I have no right to ask for your help. Not after everything my father did. But I'm scared. If he's willing to target a child, he'll target anyone, including me, including my mother and sister." Stone forced himself to breathe, to think. Victor Harrington was in federal custody awaiting sentencing. His assets were frozen. His company was under new management. His wife had turned against him, but he still had loyalists. People who had profited from his cruelty for decades. People who would do anything to protect their own interests. Who's running his network on the outside? I don't know, that's the problem. My father compartmentalized everything. He never trusted anyone with the full picture. Richard leaned forward desperately. "But there's someone who might know. Someone my father has been communicating with more than anyone else." "Who?" "His lawyer, Thomas Crane. He's been visiting the prison every day since the trial started. Officially, it's for case preparation, but the conversations go on for hours. I think he's the conduit." Stone knew the name. Thomas Crane was Victor's lead defense attorney, the $3,000 an hour shark who had tried to tear apart Stone's testimony. "Why are you telling me this?" Richard's eyes filled with tears. "Because I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to break the cycle. And because that email mentioned your granddaughter, and I know what it's like to grow up terrified of your own father." He wiped his eyes. "Lily deserves better. She deserves to grow up without fear. I couldn't give that to myself, but maybe I can help give it to her." Stone studied the young man across from him. The trembling hands, the haunted eyes, the desperate need for redemption. Maybe Richard Harrington Jr. really was trying to change. Or maybe this was an elaborate trap. Either way, Stone couldn't ignore a threat to Lily. "I'll look into Crane, but I need you to do something for me. Anything. Keep your ears open. Any more messages from your father, any suspicious activity from his remaining allies, you tell me immediately." "I will, I promise." Stone stood up. "And Richard, if this is some kind of setup, if you're playing me, I'm not. I swear I'm not." Stone held his gaze for a long moment. "For your sake, I hope that's true." Tank answered on the first ring. "What's happening?" "We have a problem." Stone was already on his motorcycle heading for the hospital. "Victor's not done. He's got people working on the outside, and they're targeting Lily." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Tell me what you need," Tank finally said. "Security at the hospital. Round the clock. No one gets near Lily's room without being vetted." "Done. I'll have brothers there within the hour." "And I need information on Thomas Crane. Victor's lawyer, he's the connection point." "Diesel's on it." "One more thing." Stone's voice hardened. "I want to know everyone who's visited Victor in prison. Every name, every date, every conversation that was recorded. That's not going to be easy. Prison records are, I don't care how hard it is. Lily is in danger. We move heaven and earth if we have to. Understood, brother. We're on it. Stone hung up and pushed his motorcycle faster. He thought the war was almost over. He thought Victor Harrington was defeated. He'd been wrong. Two Hells Angels were stationed outside Lily's hospital room when Stone arrived. Hammer and a younger member named Torch. Both armed, both vigilant, both ready to die before letting anyone threaten the little girl inside. Anyone try to get in? Stone asked. Couple of nurses, one doctor, all verified. Hammer's face was grim. What's going on, Stone? Victor's making moves from inside. He's targeting Lily. Hammer's expression went cold. Then we handle it, whatever it takes. For now, we watch and wait. But if anyone tries to get near her without authorization, they don't leave this hallway breathing. Stone nodded and pushed through the door. Maria was asleep in a chair beside Lily's bed. The stress of the past months had worn her thin. She looked 10 years older than her actual age. Lily was also asleep, her small chest rising and falling peacefully. Stone sat down in the corner and watched them both. His daughter, his granddaughter, the two most precious people in his world. Victor Harrington had already tried to destroy them once. He'd failed. But he was trying again, reaching out from behind bars to strike at the people Stone loved. It couldn't be allowed to continue. Stone pulled out his phone and dialed Agent Cole. Mr. Morrison, I wasn't expecting to hear from you until the verdict. We have a situation. Stone kept his voice low to avoid waking Maria and Lily. Victor is coordinating attacks from inside the prison. He's using his lawyer as a conduit, and he's targeting my granddaughter. A long pause. That's a serious accusation. I have evidence, a message intercepted by his own son. Another pause longer this time. Send me what you have. I'll look into it. That's not enough. I need protection for Lily. Federal protection. Mr. Morrison, I understand your concern, but I can't assign federal resources based on Agent Cole. Stone's voice was ice. Victor Harrington tried to kill my granddaughter once by blocking her cancer treatment. Now he's trying again from inside a federal facility. If anything happens to her because the FBI didn't act, I will personally make sure every news outlet in the country knows that you had warning and did nothing. The silence stretched. Send me the evidence, Agent Cole finally said. I'll see what I can do. Stone hung up and sent the email screenshot to her. Then he settled back in his chair and prepared to wait. Whatever was coming, he would be ready. The verdict came 3 days later. Stone sat in the front row of the courtroom, flanked by Tank and Rex. Maria was beside him, having left Lily under the watchful eyes of 4 Hells Angels members. The jury filed in slowly. Their faces gave nothing away. Victor Harrington stood at the defense table. He'd been sedated after his outburst, and now he moved like a man underwater, his eyes dull and unfocused. The judge spoke. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman stood. We have, Your Honor. On the count of tax evasion, how do you find guilty? Victor didn't react. On the count of money laundering, how do you find guilty? Still no reaction. On the count of wire fraud, how do you find Brown guilty? On the count of witness tampering, how do you find guilty? On the count of obstruction of justice, how do you find Diamanta guilty? 5 counts, 5 guilty verdicts, each one carrying years of federal prison time. The judge nodded. The defendant is remanded to federal custody pending sentencing. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Reporters rushed for the exits, desperate to file their stories. Victims embraced each other, crying tears of relief. Stone felt Maria's hand slip into his. It's over, she whispered. Not yet. Stone's eyes were fixed on Victor, who was being led away in handcuffs. But it's close. Victor suddenly stopped and turned. His sedation had worn off enough for awareness to return to his eyes. He looked directly at Stone. This isn't finished, Victor said, his voice barely audible across the courtroom. You took everything from me. I'll take everything from you. The bailiffs pulled him toward the exit. Victor kept his eyes on Stone until the door closed between them. Stone turned to Maria. We need to get back to the hospital. Dad, he's going to prison for decades. He can't hurt us anymore. He's still got people on the outside. Until every one of them is identified and neutralized, Lily isn't safe. Stone squeezed her hand. And neither are you, Sam. The hospital was chaos when they arrived. Police cars, ambulances, reporters crowding the entrance. Stone's heart stopped. No, 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 no. He pushed through the crowd, Tank and Rex clearing a path. Maria was right behind him, her face white with terror. Lily, Maria screamed. Lily. They burst through the hospital doors and ran for Lily's room. Hammer was waiting outside, his face pale but calm. She's okay, he said immediately. She's okay, Stone. Stone grabbed Hammer's shoulders. What happened? Someone tried to get in, dressed as a nurse, had credentials and everything. Hammer's jaw tightened. Torch spotted her first. Something was off about the way she moved. Too purposeful, too focused. What did you do? Stopped her, asked for additional ID. She ran. Hammer paused. She made it to the stairwell before hospital security caught her. They're holding her downstairs. Stone pushed past Hammer into Lily's room. She was sitting up in bed, surrounded by 3 Hells Angels members. Her eyes were wide, but calm. Grandpa, Stone crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you? I'm fine. Your friends protected me. Lily hugged him tight. Grandpa, why did that lady want to hurt me? Stone couldn't answer. He just held her, feeling her heart beating against his chest, reminding himself that she was alive. She was safe. She was here. Maria appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Thank God. Thank God. She joined the embrace, the 3 of them holding each other, as if the world might end if they let go. Tank stepped into the room. Stone, the woman downstairs. She's talking. Stone released Lily gently. Stay with your mom. Don't leave this room for any reason. Grandpa, I'll be back soon. I promise. He followed Tank out of the room and down to the hospital security office. The woman was handcuffed to a chair. She looked ordinary, middle-aged, unremarkable. The kind of person who could blend into any crowd without being noticed. Who sent you? Stone demanded. The woman smiled. You already know who sent me. Victor Harrington is in federal custody. Victor Harrington has friends everywhere. The woman's smile widened. You think taking down one man ends this? He built an empire built on loyalty and fear. You destroyed him, but you didn't destroy his network. Stone leaned close. Give me names. Why would I do that? Because you're going to prison for attempted kidnapping of a minor. Federal charges, no parole. Stone's voice dropped to a whisper. Unless you cooperate. The woman's smile finally faded. I want a lawyer. You'll get one, but first you are going to tell me who else is in Victor's network. Every name, every address, every plan. The woman said nothing. Stone straightened up and turned to Tank. Call Agent Cole. Tell her we have a witness who's ready to talk. I'm not saying anything, the woman protested. You will. Stone walked toward the door. Because the alternative is spending the rest of your life in a cell knowing that you failed. Knowing that Lily is safe. Knowing that Victor Harrington will rot in prison while you rot beside him. He paused at the door. Your choice. The woman's face crumbled. Fine, fine. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'll tell you everything. Stone nodded to Tank. Start talking. The woman's name was Sandra Wells. She'd been Victor's fixer for 15 years, handling problems that couldn't be solved through legal channels. She gave up everything. Names, locations, methods. A network of loyal operatives who had continued working for Victor even after his arrest, funded by offshore accounts that hadn't been frozen. Thomas Crane, Victor's lawyer, was the coordinator. He'd been passing Victor's orders during their daily prison meetings, disguised as legal consultations. Within hours, the FBI had arrested Crane and 6 other conspirators. Within days, Victor's entire remaining network had been dismantled. Stone received the news from Agent Cole herself. It's done, she said. Victor has no one left. No money, no lawyers, no loyal soldiers. He's completely isolated. And Lily? We're maintaining surveillance as a precaution, but the threat has been neutralized. Your granddaughter is safe. Stone thanked her and hung up. He walked back to Lily's room where she was playing cards with Rex and Hammer. Grandpa, she waved a handful of cards. I'm winning. That's because you're cheating, Rex grumbled, but he was smiling. Stone sat down beside her bed. How would you like to go home tomorrow? Lily's face lit up. Really, the doctor said I could leave. The doctor said your numbers are excellent, your treatment is working, and there's no reason to keep you here any longer. Lily threw her arms around him. This is the best day ever. Stone held her close and looked at Maria over her shoulder. His daughter was crying again, but this time they were happy tears. Unfiltered, joyful tears. For the first time in months, Stone felt the tension drain from his body. It was finally over. Victor Harrington was going to prison for the rest of his life. His network was destroyed. Lily was safe. And tomorrow she was going home. The night before Lily's discharge, Stone stood alone on the hospital roof. The Houston skyline stretched before him, a maze of lights and shadows. Somewhere out there, Victor Harrington was sitting in a cell contemplating the ruins of his empire. Stone pulled out his phone and dialed a number he'd memorized but never called. The prison line connected after 3 rings. Who is this? Victor's voice was hollow, broken. You know who it is? A long silence. Morrison, come to gloat. No, I came to tell you something. What could you possibly have to say to me? Stone watched the city lights flicker in the darkness. Tomorrow my granddaughter goes home. She's beaten cancer twice. She's surrounded by people who love her. She's got her whole life ahead of her. He paused. And you're going to spend the rest of your life in a cage knowing that you tried to destroy her and failed. Victor's breathing was ragged. I should have killed you at that gala. You couldn't have. That's what you never understood, Victor. You thought your money made you powerful, but real power isn't about what you own. It's about who stands beside you. Stone's voice hardened. You had billions of dollars and thousands of employees, but in the end, not one of them stood by you. They all turned. Your wife, your son, your lawyers, everyone. They were weak. No, they were human, something you forgot how to be a long time ago. Stone heard Victor's breath catch. I could have given you everything. I offered to pay for your granddaughter's treatment. I offered to make this all go away. And in exchange, you wanted me to abandon 47 families who'd been destroyed by your cruelty. You wanted me to let you keep hurting people. Stone shook his head. That was never going to happen. So what now? You've won. You've taken everything. What more do you want? Stone considered the question. I want you to live a very long life, Victor. I want you to wake up every morning in that cell and remember what you lost. Not your money that never mattered, but your legacy, your reputation, your family. He paused. I want you to know that an 8-year-old girl you called a bald freak is going to grow up, get married, have children of her own. And you'll be rotting in prison, forgotten by everyone who ever pretended to care about you. You're a monster. Stone almost laughed. No, Victor. I'm just a grandfather who loves his granddaughter. You're the one who became a monster. He paused. Goodbye, Victor. I hope you have a long, lonely life to think about what you've done. He hung up before Victor could respond. Then Stone pocketed his phone and headed back downstairs. Tomorrow was a new day, and for the first time in a very long time, he was looking forward to it. 1 year later. The morning sun warmed Stone's face as he pulled his motorcycle into the St. Christopher's Hospital parking lot. Behind him, a river of chrome and leather stretched for 3 blocks, 200 Hells Angels from chapters across Texas, all riding in formation. The annual Ride for Hope. Lily's idea. She had suggested it 6 months ago, sitting at the kitchen table with the drawing she'd made. Motorcycles with angels' wings, children holding hands, a banner that read, Never give up. Grandpa, if your friends can beat the mean man, they can help other kids too. Right? Stone had taken her drawing to the next club meeting. 3 days later, the first Ride for Hope was officially planned. Now 12 months after Victor Harrington's trial, they had raised over $2 million for children's cancer research. And every penny went directly to treatment for families who couldn't afford it. Maria was waiting at the hospital entrance, her arm around Lily's shoulders. Lily had changed so much in the past year. Her hair had grown back completely thick, dark curls that bounced when she walked. She'd gained weight, grown 2 inches, and developed a smile that could light up the darkest room. But more than that, she'd found her purpose. At 9 years old, Lily Morrison had become the unofficial spokesperson for St. Christopher's Children's Cancer Foundation. She visited sick kids every week. She recorded videos for families going through treatment. She spoke at fundraisers with a poise that left grown adults in tears. Stone killed his engine and dismounted. Grandpa Lily ran toward him and launched herself into his arms. "Hey, sweetheart." Stone lifted her easily. She was still light, still fragile in some ways, but so much stronger than she'd been. Ready for the big ride. "I've been ready for weeks." Lily looked past him at the 200 motorcycles. "Are they all here for me?" "They're here because of you." Stone set her down. "Every single one of them." Tank approached his massive frame draped in leather and chains. He knelt down to Lily's level. "Hey, little warrior, you ready to lead this parade?" Lily's eyes went wide. "I get to be in front. You're the reason we're all here. Of course you're in front." Tank grinned. "You'll ride with your grandpa. Sound good?" "The best." Maria stepped forward, her expression a mixture of pride and lingering worry. "Be careful with her dad." "Always." Stone kissed his daughter's cheek. "We'll be back in 2 hours." Then the real party starts. The Ride for Hope wasn't just a fundraiser. It was a celebration, a statement, a reminder that good people still existed in a world that sometimes seemed determined to prove otherwise. Stone climbed back on his motorcycle and lifted Lily onto the seat in front of him. Her small hands gripped the handlebars. "Ready?" "Ready." Stone started his engine. Behind him, 200 more engines roared to life. The sound was deafening, beautiful, a thunderous chorus that shook the windows of every building on the block. Stone pulled out of the parking lot, Lily's laughter ringing in his ears, and led his brothers through the streets of Houston. The route took them past Highland Park. Stone hadn't planned it that way, but somehow the ride had naturally gravitated toward Victor Harrington's former neighborhood. The mansion still stood, though it had been seized by the government and was now being converted into a rehabilitation center for veterans. Stone's idea, funded by Victor's frozen assets. Lily pointed at the building as they rode past. "Grandpa, is that where the mean man lived?" "It was, but now it's going to help soldiers who got hurt protecting our country." "So something good came from something bad," Stone smiled. "That's exactly right, sweetheart." 200 motorcycles rumbled past the gates of Victor Harrington's former empire, their engines drowning out whatever ghosts remained. The ride continued through downtown Houston, past cheering crowds and flashing cameras. Local news crews had been covering the event all morning. National outlets had picked up the story. Hell's Angels lead annual charity ride for children's cancer research. A year ago, that headline would have been unthinkable. Now it was reality. Stone thought about all the battles they'd fought to get here. The attacks, the threats, the moments when it seemed like Victor's money and power would crush them completely. And they'd won, not with violence, not with rage, but with truth, brotherhood, and the stubborn refusal to back down. The ride ended at Memorial Park, where a stage had been set up for the celebration. Food trucks lined the perimeter. Children's games filled the grass. Thousands of people had gathered to welcome the riders home. Stone helped Lily off the motorcycle and watched her run toward a group of kids from St. Christopher's. They embraced her like a returning hero, because that's what she was. Tank appeared at Stone's side. "Hell of a turnout. Lily did this. All of it. She learned from someone." Stone shook his head. "I just taught her to fight. She taught herself to heal." A familiar figure approached through the crowd. Richard Harrington Jr. Stone tensed instinctively, but Richard held up his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to see what you've built." "Why?" Richard looked around at the celebration, the children playing the families, laughing, the bikers mingling with ordinary citizens without a trace of fear or suspicion. "Because my father spent 30 years destroying things, and in 1 year you've built something that will last generations." Richard's voice cracked. "I wanted to see what that looks like." Stone studied the young man. Richard had kept every promise he'd made. The restitution payments continued. The children's fund had grown to over $50 million. He'd even started volunteering at the Veteran Rehabilitation Center. "You could be part of it," Stone said finally. Richard blinked. "What?" "You've been writing checks for a year. That's fine. Money helps. But if you really want to make amends for what your father did, you need to do more than sign documents." Stone gestured at the celebration. "You need to show up. Get your hands dirty. Look people in the eye and prove you're different." You'd let me? I'd let you try. One chance, that's all anyone gets. Richard's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. I won't waste it. See that you don't. Richard walked away toward the volunteer station where a group of Hell's Angels members were serving food to families. Stone watched him pick up an apron and start helping. Maybe redemption was possible, after all. The ceremony began at noon. Stone stood at the podium looking out at the sea of faces, bikers, doctors, nurses, patients, families, politicians, journalists, all gathered to celebrate something that had started with a single act of cruelty and transformed into a movement of compassion. 1 year ago, Stone began. My granddaughter and I walked into a charity gala. We just wanted to help sick kids, to give back to the hospital that saved her life. He paused. Instead, we met a man who thought his money gave him the right to hurt anyone he wanted. He called my granddaughter a freak. He tried to block her cancer treatment. He did everything in his power to destroy us. The crowd was silent. Victor Harrington is in prison now. He'll spend the rest of his life there. But that's not what matters. What matters is what happened after. Stone looked at Lily, who was sitting in the front row with Maria. What matters is that 47 families who'd been destroyed by that man got justice. What matters is that a children's cancer fund was established that's now worth over $50 million. What matters is that this little girl, Stone's voice cracked, this brave, beautiful little girl decided that her pain could become someone else's hope. He took a breath. The Hells Angels have a reputation, some of it deserved, some of it not. But today I want to tell you what we really stand for. We stand for veterans who've been forgotten by the country they served. We stand for families who've been crushed by systems designed to protect the powerful. We stand for children like Lily who deserve a chance to grow up without fear. Stone looked around at his brothers, Tank, Rex, Hammer, Diesel, and dozens more. We're not perfect. We've made mistakes, but we show up, we protect, we serve. And when someone hurts an innocent child, we don't rest until justice is done. He stepped back from the podium. Now I'd like to introduce someone who can say it better than I ever could. My granddaughter, Lily Morrison. The crowd erupted in applause. Lily walked to the podium, her small frame barely visible above it. Someone rushed to bring her a step stool. She climbed up, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at the thousands of people watching her. Hi, I'm Lily. I'm 9. Laughter rippled through the crowd. A year ago, a man called me a freak because I didn't have any hair. It made me really sad. I thought something was wrong with me. I thought I was ugly and broken. The laughter stopped. But my grandpa showed me something. He showed me that the man who called me a freak was the one who was really broken. Not me. He was so scared of being weak that he had to make other people feel small. Lily's voice grew stronger. And my grandpa didn't hit him or yell at him. He just showed everyone the truth. And the truth was stronger than all the money in the world. Stone felt tears streaming down his face. Now I'm here. My hair grew back. I'm not sick anymore. And I get to help other kids who are still fighting. Lily smiled. So if anyone out there is feeling scared or broken, I want you to know something. You're not alone. There are people who will stand up for you, people who will fight for you, people who will love you no matter what. She looked directly at Stone. My grandpa taught me that real strength isn't about being tough. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. It's about telling the truth even when it's hard. And it's about never, ever giving up on the people you love. Lily stepped back from the microphone. Thank you for coming to our ride, and thank you for helping kids like me. The crowd rose to their feet. The applause was thunderous, overwhelming, a wave of emotion that swept across the entire park. Stone walked to the podium and lifted Lily into his arms. I love you, Grandpa, she whispered. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you'll ever know. The celebration continued into the evening. As the sun began to set, Stone found himself standing alone at the edge of the park, watching the families enjoy the last hours of the event. Tank approached with 2 beers. Hell of a day. Stone took one and clinked it against Tank's. Hell of a year. You know what I keep thinking about? Tank took a long drink. That night at the gala, when Victor threw his tantrum and called Lily a freak, you could have hit him. No one would have blamed you. I wanted to. I know. But you didn't. And that one choice, It changed everything. Stone nodded slowly. If I'd hit him, he would have won. He would have proven that we were exactly what he said we were, animals who couldn't control ourselves. Instead, you proved something else. That strength isn't about violence, it's about restraint. Tank shook his head. I've been in the club for 20 years. I've seen a lot of fights, won most of them, but I've never seen anything more powerful than what you did. Standing there, taking his abuse, and then destroying him without throwing a single punch. I had help. We all helped, but you led. Tank put his hand on Stone's shoulder. You showed us a different way to fight. And now look at what we built. Stone looked around at the celebration, children laughing, families hugging, bikers and civilians mingling like old friends. It's not perfect. Nothing ever is, but it's good. It's real. Tank smiled. And it started because an 8-year-old girl wanted to help other kids. That's pretty damn beautiful if you ask me. Stone's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He opened it and felt his blood run cold. Morrison, I know what you've done. I know what you've built. And I want you to know that it won't last. Nothing lasts. One day you'll be gone and everything you've created will crumble. Just like my empire crumbled. Just like everyone's empire eventually crumbles. Enjoy your victory while you can. It means nothing. Victor. Stone stared at the message for a long moment. Then he deleted it. Problem, Tank asked. No. Stone pocketed his phone. Just a ghost who doesn't know he's dead yet. Mate. The crowd began to thin as evening approached. Stone helped the cleanup crew working alongside his brothers and the volunteers who'd made the day possible. Richard Harrington Jr. was still there hauling trash bags and breaking down tables without complaint. Lily found Stone as he was stacking chairs. Grandpa, can I ask you something? Of course, sweetheart. Do you think the mean man is sorry for what he did? Stone set down the chair and knelt to her level. I don't know, baby. Some people are never sorry. They go through their whole lives hurting others and never feeling bad about it. That's sad. It is. Lily thought for a moment. I feel sorry for him. Stone blinked. You do? Yeah, because he's so angry and alone, and we're not. Lily gestured at the people around them. We have friends, we have family, we have each other. He doesn't have anyone. Stone felt something shift in his chest. A weight he'd been carrying for a year suddenly felt lighter. You're right, sweetheart. We do have each other. So we win. So we win. Lily hugged him tight. I'm glad you're my grandpa. I'm glad you're my granddaughter. Stone kissed the top of her head. Now go find your mom. It's getting late. Lily ran off toward Maria, who was helping pack up the food truck area. Stone watched her go, marveling at the person she was becoming. 9-year-old cancer survivor twice over and wiser than most adults he'd ever met. Victor Harrington had called her a freak. He'd been wrong about a lot of things, but that might have been his biggest mistake of all. Later that night, Stone rode his motorcycle to the cemetery. He parked at the entrance and walked to Elizabeth's grave carrying a single rose and a photo. Hey, Lizzie. He knelt down and placed the rose against the headstone. I brought you something. He propped up the photo, a shot from that day's celebration. Lily at the podium, speaking to thousands. Stone and Maria in the front row, tears streaming down their faces. 200 Hell's Angels standing behind them, leather and chrome gleaming in the sunlight. She did it, Lizzie. Our little girl's little girl changed the world. Stone's voice broke. You would have been so proud. She's got your eyes, your smile, your heart. He traced his fingers across Elizabeth's name. I kept my promise. I protected them, Maria, Lily, all of them. And I did it the right way. No violence. No revenge. Just truth. He paused. You always said I had too much anger in me. Too much pain. You were right, but Lily taught me something. She taught me that pain can become purpose, that suffering can become strength. Stone sat back on his heels. I miss you every day. I think about what you'd say, what you'd do, and I try to be the man you believed I could be. A gentle wind rustled through the cemetery, carrying the scent of flowers and fresh grass. Rest easy, my love. I'll see you again someday. But not yet. I've still got work to do. Stone stood up, touched the headstone one last time, and walked back to his motorcycle. The city lights of Houston glowed in the distance. Somewhere out there, children were fighting cancer. Families were struggling to survive. Bullies and tyrants were preying on the weak, and the Hells Angels would be there to meet them. 2 weeks after the celebration, Stone received an unexpected visitor at the clubhouse. Patricia Harrington. She looked different from the last time he'd seen her. Healthier, calmer. The haunted expression had faded from her eyes. "Mrs. Harrington, this is a surprise." "Patricia, please." She sat down across from him. "I wanted to thank you in person for everything. You don't need to thank me. You helped us take down Victor as much as anyone. That's not what I'm thanking you for." Patricia pulled an envelope from her purse. "I'm thanking you for giving my son a second chance. Richard told me what you said at the celebration about showing up, getting his hands dirty. He's been doing good work. He's been transformed. I barely recognize him." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "For 30 years, I watched Victor turn him into a smaller, weaker version of himself. I thought Richard was lost forever. But you gave him hope. You showed him that change was possible." Stone shifted uncomfortably. "He did the work. I just pointed him in a direction." "That's more than Victor ever did." Patricia slid the envelope across the table. "This is a donation. $20 million for the Ride for Hope Foundation. From the settlement of my divorce." Stone's jaw dropped. $20 million. It's the least I can do. Victor spent 30 years destroying people. I want to spend the rest of my life helping rebuild what he broke. "Patricia, I can't." "You can, and you will." She stood up. "Yes to it to help children like Lily. Use it to support families who are fighting battles they can't win alone. Use it to prove that good people still exist in this world." Stone looked at the envelope, then back at Patricia. Why all of this?" Patricia smiled, and for the first time, Stone saw the woman she might have been if she'd never met Victor Harrington. Strong, compassionate, free. "Because when you stood up to my husband at that gala, you did something I'd been too afraid to do for 30 years. You showed me that monsters can be defeated." She paused at the door. "Now I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving you right." She walked out. Stone sat alone with the envelope holding $20 million and the weight of one woman's redemption. The sentencing hearing took place on a gray Tuesday morning. Stone didn't plan to attend. He'd said everything he needed to say to Victor Harrington. But Lily asked him to go. "I want to know it's really over," she said. "I want to know he can't hurt anyone anymore." So Stone went. The courtroom was nearly empty. Victor's remaining allies had abandoned him. His lawyers had dropped his case. Even the media had moved on to newer scandals. Victor Harrington sat at the defense table alone. He'd aged decades in the past year. His hair had gone completely white. His expensive suit hung loosely on a frame that had withered from stress and despair. The judge entered. Everyone rose. "Victor Harrington, you have been found guilty of tax evasion, money laundering, wire fraud, witness tampering, and obstruction of justice. Do you have anything to say before I pronounce sentence?" Victor stood slowly. He turned to look at Stone, who sat in the back row. Their eyes met. For a moment, Stone expected hatred, defiance, the same arrogance that had defined Victor Harrington for 60 years. Instead, he saw something else. Defeat. Victor turned back to the judge. "I have nothing to say." The judge nodded. "Victor Harrington, I hereby sentence you to 45 years in federal prison. Given your age and the nature of your crimes, you will almost certainly die behind bars." She paused. "I hope you use that time to reflect on the damage you've caused. Not just to the dozens of families you destroyed, but to your own family. To your wife, who finally found the courage to leave you. To your son, who is trying desperately to become a better man than his father. To your daughter, who hasn't spoken your name in years." Victor's shoulders slumped. Court is adjourned. The bailiffs led Victor away. As he passed Stone's row, Victor stopped. The guards tried to pull him forward, but he resisted. "Morrison." Stone stood up. "I underestimated you." Victor's voice was hollow. "I thought you were nothing, an animal in leather, but you—" He shook his head. "You're more than I ever was." "No," Stone said quietly. "I'm just a grandfather who loves his family. You could have been the same, but you chose power over people. And now you have neither." Victor's eyes glistened. "Tell your granddaughter." Tell her I'm sorry. I know it doesn't mean anything. I know it can't undo what I did. But, his voice cracked. Tell her I'm sorry. The guards pulled him away. Stone watched Victor Harrington disappear through the courtroom doors for the last time. Then he walked outside into the gray morning light and called Lily. It's over, sweetheart. It's really over. 6 months later, the Veteran Rehabilitation Center officially opened on a crisp autumn morning. It stood where Victor Harrington's mansion once housed parties and corruption, now transformed into a sanctuary for soldiers trying to rebuild their lives. Stone cut the ribbon alongside the mayor Tank Rex and 24 Hells Angels members. Lily stood in the front row cheering louder than anyone. After the ceremony, Stone walked through the facility meeting the veterans who would call it home. Men and women who had given everything for their country and received nothing in return. You did this, Tank said, falling into step beside him. All of it. We did this together. You know what I think? Tank paused by a window overlooking the courtyard where veterans were already gathering to share stories and support each other. I think Victor Harrington's biggest mistake wasn't insulting Lily. It was underestimating what ordinary people can do when they stand together. Stone nodded. He thought money was power. He was wrong. So what is power? Stone thought about the past 2 years, the battles, the losses, the victories. Power is having people who will stand beside you when everything falls apart. Power is protecting those who can't protect themselves. Power is telling the truth when lies are easier. He looked at his brothers, Tank, Rex, Hammer, Diesel, and dozens more. Power is brotherhood. Tank smiled. Then we're the most powerful men in Texas. Damn right we are. Damn. The final scene came on a Sunday afternoon 1 year after Victor Harrington's sentencing. Stone sat on his porch watching Lily ride a small motorcycle in circles around the driveway. She'd gotten it for her 10th birthday, a gift from the entire club. Maria sat beside him nursing a cup of coffee. She's getting good, Maria said. She's a natural. Like her grandfather. Stone smiled. Like her grandmother. Lizzie was the real rider in our family. I was just along for the ride. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily navigate the driveway with growing confidence. Dad, yeah. Do you think it was worth it? Everything we went through, Stone considered the question. A year ago, a billionaire called your daughter a freak. He tried to destroy our family. He blocked her cancer treatment. He attacked everyone we loved. Stone paused. Now he's in prison. His empire helps veterans instead of hurting families. His money funds cancer research. And Lily, he watched his granddaughter execute a perfect turn. Lily became someone who will change the world. She learned that strength isn't about violence, that truth is more powerful than money, that good people standing together can defeat any evil. He turned to Maria. So yeah, it was worth it. Maria leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm proud of you, Dad. I'm proud of us, all of us. Lily pulled up to the porch and killed her engine. Grandpa, did you see that turn? I saw it, sweetheart. Perfect form. Lily beamed. Someday I'm going to lead the ride for hope, just like you. Someday you're going to lead a lot more than that. Lily climbed off her motorcycle and ran to hug him. Stone held her tight, feeling her heartbeat against his chest, strong, steady, alive. A year ago, Victor Harrington had whispered 5 words that changed everything. Say that again. I dare you. Victor hadn't said it again. Instead, he'd watched as his empire crumbled. His family abandoned him, and an 8-year-old girl he'd mocked became a symbol of hope for thousands. Stone had dared him to show his true face, and the world had seen a monster, but more importantly, the world had seen something else. It had seen 200 bikers holding American flags while a billionaire begged for mercy. It had seen veterans standing up for a little girl they'd never met. It had seen ordinary people choosing courage over fear, truth over lies, brotherhood over isolation. The mean man had lost everything. The little girl he'd called a freak had won everything that mattered. And somewhere in Houston, Texas, an old biker sat on his porch holding his granddaughter, watching the sun set on a world that was just a little bit better than it had been before. Not because one man had fallen, but because good people had risen. Stone kissed Lily's forehead and made her a promise. No matter what happens, sweetheart, no matter who tries to hurt you or the people you love, remember what we learned. What's that, Grandpa? Stone smiled. Real power isn't money. Real power isn't violence. Real power is having brothers who will stand beside you when the world falls apart. Real power is protecting the innocent. Real power is truth. He looked out at the sunset where 200 motorcycles could still be heard in the distance, riding toward the next battle, the next family who needed help, the next monster who needed to be brought down. And real power, Stone finished, is never ever giving up on the people you love. Lily hugged him tighter. I won't, Grandpa. I promise. I know you won't, sweetheart. Stone held her close and watched the last light fade from the sky. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new enemies, new battles to fight. But tonight, everything was exactly as it should be. A grandfather, a granddaughter, a family that had survived the worst and come out stronger, and a legacy that would last forever. That night, the Hells Angels of Houston gathered at their clubhouse for their weekly meeting. Stone stood at the front looking at the faces of his brothers, men who had sacrificed everything to stand with him. 1 year ago, he said, a billionaire thought he could break us. He thought his money made him untouchable. He thought we were animals who would prove him right. Stone paused. He was wrong. About all of it. We didn't break. We didn't prove him right. And his money couldn't save him from the truth. He looked around the room. Now I want to ask you something, not as your president, but as your brother. What do we do next? Tank stood up. We keep fighting. There are other victors out there, other families being crushed, other kids being told they're freaks. Rex nodded. We find them. We help them. We show the world what the Hells Angels really stand for. Hammer raised his fist. Brotherhood, honor, protection. One by one, every member in the room stood. Stone felt tears welling in his eyes. These men, these brothers, had given him everything. Their loyalty, their courage, their willingness to sacrifice. Then let's ride, Stone said. Let's show the world who we really are. 23 voices answered as one. Hells Angels forever. Stone walked outside into the cool night air, his brothers following behind him. 200 motorcycles waited in the parking lot, their chrome gleaming under the streetlights. Stone mounted his bike and looked back at the men who had changed his life. For Lily, he said. For Lily, they answered. Stone started his engine. The roar was deafening, beautiful, a promise and a warning wrapped into one. He pulled out of the parking lot, 200 brothers behind him, and rode toward the horizon, toward the next battle, toward the next family who needed help, toward whatever came next, because that's what real heroes do. They don't wait for evil to find them. They ride out to meet it. And they never ever stop fighting for the people who need them most. Stone Morrison had spent his whole life searching for something worth fighting for. He'd found it in a little girl with no hair and a heart bigger than any billionaire's empire. And he would spend the rest of his life making sure no one ever hurt her or anyone like her again. That was his promise. That was his legacy. That was the truth that Victor Harrington had never understood. Real power isn't what you take from others. Real power is what you give. And Stone Morrison had given everything. For his family, for his brothers, for every child who deserved a chance to grow up without fear. That's who the Hells Angels really were. Not criminals, not thugs, not animals. Protectors, veterans, brothers, heroes in leather and chrome. And they would never stop riding, never stop fighting, never stop proving that good people standing together could defeat any evil. No matter how rich, no matter how powerful, no matter how cruel, because at the end of the day, Victor Harrington had been wrong about one thing above all others. He'd called them animals, but animals don't build hospitals. Animals don't raise millions for sick children. Animals don't stand in courtrooms and tell the truth while billionaires scream and rage. The Hells Angels were something Victor could never understand. They were family, and family protects its own, always, forever. No matter the cost, Stone Morrison rode into the night, his brothers behind him, his granddaughter's face in his heart, and the words of a monster echoing in his memory. Say that again. I dare you. Victor Harrington never did say it again, and that was the most important victory of all.